No, the opinions you're about to hear on this show are strictly those of the panel.
The following program is rated TV MA-LSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to tonight's show. How you doing, Emperor?
Oh, me? I thought you were talking to your audience. I'm fine.
Oh,
By the way, it's a
everybody.
damn lie. I speak for everybody.
You do?
Yeah, it's your disclaimer like,
you're-
oh, comments
you're
only
an
for those of
emperor.
the panel. No, I speak for everybody.
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I mean,
Good.
we got a lot of stuff going on, but it's getting better.
Get the
And I
OnlyFans
like our
account going?
president.
Really?
So, yeah. Don't you? It's a lot better than what we had the last 4 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay. The fact that he wakes up and knows what time of day it is an improvement. I mean, that
Yeah.
bar is so low you're tripping over it.
Yeah, I know. He was tripping over it. But yeah, tonight I wanted to talk about a few things that I was looking into because so many people seem to just, hear something and then they stop talking about it. Like it's old news now, even though we never found out the answers or anything. So when I saw this video, I was going through some old, couple week old videos and links that I'd sent to the Friday Night Shit Show chat, and I found this Greg Kelly segment, and I was like, that's about the Donald Trump's assassination attempt, in Butler. And I was like, wow, it's got some new information in there that he's talking about, but he's right. Nobody's talking about it. It's like it's no big deal anymore, even though other people still want to kill him, because of the, what happened the other day with Comey and then a few other people posting stuff with pool balls in the line with numbers on it saying the 86, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to, promote dumbasses basically. But it's just ridiculous that, we still have that many people out there trying to get rid of our president right now. And thank God he's got good security. Or, this last time that when that day that happened, when he got shot at, I just about lost it. I was so upset. It ruined my day, it ruined my whole weekend.
Probably ruined his day, too, I imagine.
Well, I know, but I mean, it was a miracle that he even didn't, turn his head or whatever happened. It was devastating, I thought. And it just makes you realize how short life really is, and that today could be it. You could go to bed tonight and not wake up tomorrow. So
Well,
make
there's a
sure
pleasant
you.
thought. We're starting off well tonight on a very
Well, I
an
just want
upbeat.
people to hug your loved ones, tell people you care about them.
You can hug me
Uh,
anytime you like.
don't go to bed angry, because today could be your last day. So love everyone in your life, your pets, your grandparents, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your spouses, your children, and let them know, because let that be their last memory of you, if it's going to be your last one, to be something wonderful that they can think about every day. But anything you want to add before I bring up the first?
Well, I'm hoping no one's trying to assassinate anybody in my family, but to your point, I will still wish them all well and give them hugs. To your point that it's no one's really talking about it, I think that's kind of just the way things are in this country, and it's been that way for a while. With a 24-hour news cycle, there's always something going on. Now, granted, this is an assassination attempt, one of several that we know of somebody who was running for president at the time and is now president again. The media doesn't want to have this thing out there because the last thing they want to do is give any kind of sympathy to Trump.
Mhm.
Hello, Lilith. Put the brackets on your clan tag there. The hell.
Oh,
They don't want it
don't
out
get
there. They don't want anybody
typing.
talking about it. And you know what? I think mentally, even MAGA people, they've moved on because he won, he survived. You know, it wasn't any long-lasting damage, except for the poor gentleman who was killed, the fireman that was sitting behind him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any much more to talk about other than, I mean, what do we know already? The Secret Service dropped the ball. They screwed up, which we know about.
Hmm.
The assassin got killed. He had some kind of manifesto because he was a nut job, which is going to be the topic of this evening, at least for things that I'm going to discuss, which
Yeah.
is the ultra violent left, which is kind of a redundant comment. But yeah, it's not talked about anymore because it's no longer, at least in the minds of a lot of people, not a concern anymore. He survived, he won, everybody has moved on.
Well, it just sometimes it's sad to me that we never get the answers that we ask for. We want to know what happened and who did it and whatever else, like with the bridge, the collapse of that one bridge, just little things like that happen, or the stuff that happened in Palestine, Ohio.
How
where
about
the
Vegas?
Chinese
We still don't know
went.
what anything about the Vegas
Yeah,
shooter, and that was how many
Las
years ago?
Vegas, lots of things like that, and it just seems like everyone just accepts that they don't get the answers, and I just think that's bullshit.
Well, I
just
think
get tired
one
of
of the
it.
things a lot
You
of
know?
conservatives are very disappointed in, especially this week with the Epstein stuff, with Boingo and the rest, Eric Patel coming out and saying, well, yeah, he killed himself at the end. Like, wait a minute. Where's Pam Bondi? Where's all this stuff that was supposed to be released? None of it has been yet. I mean, we talked about this a bit on Friday. And people
Mhm.
want answers, and enough people have moved on in some ways. The Epstein thing, I think, is a bigger story than the Trump assassination attempt because the implications haven't been realized yet. The people are on that list so far have gotten away with it.
Yeah.
At least Trump's assassination, assassin got, 4 bullets in his skull, so he's down and out. The Epstein
Mhm.
client list, those bastards are still out there. And I want names. All of us want names. And I don't think we're ever going to get it. And that's a shame.
Well, I hope you're not right. I think I said that the last time you said that. I hope you're wrong, because I really believe that the 77 million people that voted for this administration to come in and try to repair the damage that has been done over the last, 20 years or whatever, the best of their ability, we just expected some answers. And I'm hoping, it's just the beginning. It's only, 130 days in or something like that. So I'm hoping that we'll get something before the end of the year. Except we need something before 2026 if we expect to get any good seats, new seats.
Oh, the midterms? Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But you know
that's
what? I
I'm
don't care
thinking
about that. I want to know not for any kind of political gain. I just want to know what scum are on there, because I'm sure there's going to be at least a few people on the right or a few people that you wouldn't think so are on that list. But a lot of people equate
There's gonna be
this
a lot
to
of
like,
people on there.
what's that?
I think there's going to be a lot of people out there that and I won't be shocked. I don't think I'll be shocked by anybody's name.
I,
I'm expecting
I
a lot
hope
of people
I'm
that
not
probably aren't
shocked,
even on there.
but it's kind of like
Sorry,
what
go
Trump said in 2016, which is, the Hillary Clinton thing, lock her up. We're going to go after her. We're going to lock, and nothing happened.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's this kind of thing that people get really frustrated about because you campaign on it, you talk about it, we're going to make change, we're going to clean the swamp, and then nothing ever really happens. Something needs to happen this time around. And you're right, it would be great to have it by the midterms. I don't care about that for any kind of political gain. I just
Mhm.
want these people, if not, publicly
Well, I'm not
punished, at
saying
least
so much
shamed.
for political gain.
Sounds like
Maybe I
it.
should have reworded it. Maybe I should reword it. The thing is, all the people that voted for Trump, they wanted something different. They wanted some changes. And the way he handled the California fires and things like that, going there in person and then going to, was it North Carolina and I think to Florida, a few other areas that were affected by the flooding and the mudslides and all that. That was a president that was hands-on, that was saying, okay, I'm going to help you guys get past some of the red tape and things like that. And he did those things, right? So when we're asking about some of these other things, we would like to get something, and if they don't arrest someone, that's another thing that we ask for. We ask
I've
for
seen
some
Biden
arrests,
with kids. I'm
right?
pretty sure he was a hands-on president.
So I'm just saying, it's not so much that. I'm just saying people are going to lose faith and not go to the polls to
Right.
vote.
That's right.
So maybe it does lean towards, we're going to lose votes, but I'm hoping that we don't. I'm hoping we gain a few more because people are going to say, yeah, he really did do what he said he was going to
Well,
do.
the difference is the Democrats weren't campaigning on releasing the Epstein list. They're not about to out most of their friends. The Republicans did. So, and I think you're right. If you're going to campaign on something like that, which you would think would be as easy as just hitting send to the media and giving out the
Yeah.
one would think, all right, that's the least you can do since you told us you were going to do it. Let's see it. So I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see. But this was what I watched, and it really made me start thinking about how many answers we haven't received and if we will get answers, just like you were talking about. And we've talked about that a couple times, the last times that we've done a few shows together about unanswered things and that we don't think we're ever going to get them, or you feel that we aren't. I'm praying still that I think we'll get some answers at least and not be left hanging. But I want to make sure this is turned up. Okay, let me turn it up a little bit more. And just tell me when and give me a second so I can stop it if you want to sort of say something, okay?
Welcome. This program is a huge splash.
Just being a smart ass. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Last night, as we revealed something that puzzled me and millions of other people about the July 13th assassination attempt on President Trump. I had never seen it before, and millions of you also had never seen it before, although some of you actually did and had some interesting things to say about it. I'm going to show you what we're talking about. We're going to get to the new evidence in a moment, but first, what we previewed last night right here. So take a look, if you will. This is Butler, Pennsylvania. This is the moment President Trump, he's been led from the stage. He's given another fist pump. He's about to get in the vehicle and drive off. And something very odd happens with this gentleman right here, or so we thought. It's an armed individual. I'm not sure what he's affiliated with. He also strangely has night vision goggles. All right. And sunset wasn't scheduled that day for 8:50 p.m. Anyway, watch what happened, please. President Trump is in the vehicle, and this individual appears to be aiming his rifle right at the cabin, right at the windshield. And then he puts his weapon down. It's strange, but there is an explanation. But first, there are a lot of people who had a motive to kill President Trump, and they're still out there, and they're still talking about it. And these are very, very, very powerful people. One of them, the former Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney, who seemed to give moral and legal justification to kill President Trump?
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump.
Let's put those words on the screen. How about that? Think about that. Our 246-year history, never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. Hitler, Stalin, Hirohito. I mean, for crying out loud, we were almost taken over
Jefferson
a couple
Davis.
of times during World War II. That is such an incendiary, dangerous, and false thing to say, but maybe he really believes it. And so does his daughter, of course, Liz. In her silly book about the January 6th committee, she writes this: "My father gave me a hug. Then he looked at me with steel in his voice and said, 'Defend the Republic, daughter.' 'I will, Dad,' I said, 'always.'" Given that they believe that President Trump is a threat, the number one threat this country has ever faced, yeah, I'm deeply suspicious. And folks, we don't have answers to questions. And most questions, quite frankly, haven't even been asked. The forums so far have been completely inadequate. I'll say this for the JFK assassination investigators and the Warren Commission, at least they went through the motions of pretending that they tried to find out what really happened. All these august people from all walks of life, captains of industry, politics, they come together, 9 months, huge report. Now, we don't believe it, but at least they tried. What do we have? What do we really have about Butler, Pennsylvania, and West Palm Beach, for that matter? Well, remember this guy, temporarily the director of the Secret Service. Listen to this.
The Secret Service's Office of Professional Responsibility is currently conducting a mission assurance review. The findings of the mission assurance review have prompted the Secret Service to move into the accountability phase. Our Office of Professional Responsibility, and we will let the facts of the mission assurance and any further investigations play out.
The mission assurance review. What the hell is that? All right, that's where the Secret Service investigates itself. There's been an attempt by the U.S. Senate and the House, but there are so many unanswered questions. It's kind of ridiculous. And I am sick of the bureaucratic double talk that we're still getting. He's out of power, but there's no momentum. Nobody really seems to be pushing to find out what really happened. So we saw this footage, and it got my attention, and I'll show you one more time. It looks weird, doesn't it? Now, the guy is only pointing his weapon momentarily at what seems to be the SUV, and then he drops it, okay? And then something even weirder happens. One more time with the push, please. All right, so we put this on social media, and sometimes the smartest people are out there, right? They'll just tell you. Most people had never seen this before or never noticed it, but some people did. It's got millions and millions of hits on my social media page at Greg Kelly USA.
President Trump.
And we just kind of talked everybody through it. But here's what somebody, and actually a couple of people, provided. Take a look at this picture, if you would. This kind of spells the whole thing out. The gunman, the uniformed gunman, was some distance away. You see that? He's all the way over there. Now, it was an optical illusion, but folks, we still have something very serious going on here. How far away was that man with the gun? Approximately 30 to 40 feet. That's the estimate we came up with. That's interesting, and it's necessary to point out. And we also know that the guy, it's the same guy. We put the picture together, and it's the same guy from both angles, all right? Now, again, the night vision goggles got me a little bit, I don't know. All right, so can I tell you this, though? There's something else going on here. And I'm not a big numbers guy, okay? You know, numerology and astrology. But the assassination attempt of President Trump happened July 13th, okay? Last night was April 22nd, fair enough, which was 9 months and 9 days after the assassination attempt, and my show is on at 9 p.m. I don't know, the 999 thing, I'm not superstitious, but I still think I'm onto something overall about Butler, Pennsylvania. And I'd like to show you and reiterate that nobody has picked up, nobody has bothered to say what the hell was going on when it took first, and we've already been through this, when President Trump left the stage. Now that was awesome, right? Go ahead and roll it. He had those fist bumps, and it was just an amazing moment. And it showed us who he was, courage under fire, and a true leader, all right? And I love it, but that was way too slow. And then when he finally gets in the vehicle, where we thought perhaps that was a weird thing, okay, watch what happens here. Okay, he's in the car. And you'll notice they're not moving. We focused at the time on the Department of Homeland Security, the folks there who couldn't really figure out where their holster was. Watch how slow that car moves. In what universe do they not hit the gas and get the hell out of there? More time and more time and more time. They're not going very far. What could possibly be the holdup? They have an active assassination attempt on their hands, and the president could be more seriously wounded than they realize. Anybody know why they would take this long? Well, we actually have some interesting information about that. All right, we're gonna let the 157, and then we don't know how long it took to get out of the farm area, the complex, and direct to the hospital. When JFK was shot, a lot of weird things happened. In fact, the car slowed down for a split second, but then they hit the gas and got the hell out of the kill zone. When Reagan was shot, all right, these guys knew what to do. Jerry Parr on the right is pushing Ronald Reagan into the vehicle, and everybody knows you get out of there fast. Listen to this. It's a retrospective on the Reagan assassination attempt, and they talk about what the Secret Service knows to do always. Speed, get out, move fast.
2 decades of gunfire that had taught the Secret Service one lesson above all: move fast.
If Jerry Parr was a split second slower, he would have gotten it in the head. If you looked at the angle that he was going at, it would have hit Reagan in the head.
From the first shot to the door being shut is about 3 or 4 seconds. And then in about 6 or 7 seconds, we've started moving. Because I told the driver, move out.
Makes sense, right? And they got out of there fast. That's Jerry Parr, who was the man right to Reagan's left who got him in that limo. Next, please.
As the armored vehicle raced across Washington, Agent Jerry Parr's mind was racing too. Could this have been a so-called decapitation strike by the Soviets? Were other gunmen still waiting in ambush? Although the shooter, 25-year-old John Hinckley Jr., was in custody, not until late that evening were authorities certain that Hinckley had acted alone.
So that's the first thing they got to think about. This is a conspiracy. There may be more gunmen out there. So, all right, after the screw up of not seeing crooks on that roof and the screw up in the planning and all that stuff and how long it took to get to the car and all that, they still took how much time to get the hell out of there? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Now, this is even more insane. This is a possibility as to why they weren't hitting the gas. They did not know where to go because cell service was so spotty. They did not have the address for the hospital handy. It was determined that my partner and I would split off and go to the hospital. And when I first noticed that I did not have cell service, I tried to pull up the address for the hospital through my email, but I couldn't load any emails. So they got to drive around for a while waiting for cell service. And that was from one of the sniper teams. And they had to get to the hospital quick. It wasn't written on their arm. I mean, that is, that's something, isn't it? Hey, I've never seen this before. Actually, I did see it about a day after the assassination attempt, but it's amateur video from the lobby of the hospital, and they fear the worst. And it's almost like a miracle happens. And a miracle did happen. They think that President Trump was shot in the head and he's mortally wounded. Watch their reaction when they actually see him on his feet.
Oh yeah, we're front row, and my friend saw blood coming out of his head.
Oh my God! Oh Jesus!
There he is.
Oh,
there he is. There he is. There he is.
There he is. Oh my God! He's walking.
He's walking. He's walking.
He is walking on his own. I'm right in front of the door. I'm in the window.
Okay, he's walking. He's walking. Thank you, Jesus. He's walking. He's walking.
You can hear the joy and the relief, right? We never really get a good look at President Trump, but he's walking. Thank you, Jesus. President Trump is not out of the woods by any means. He is the most targeted man in the world. And it looks to me that very powerful people still want him dead. And just today, his home and office in New York City was stormed by environmental activists who defaced the property. Take a look.
Piece of bro.
Okay, he's just sitting there and they ultimately arrest him and take him out of the place. But I'm very surprised this was able to happen. By the way, what if he had a weapon? What if he had a bomb? What if he had anything? 2 months ago, the same damn thing happened. Do you remember? A bunch of anti-Semites stormed that place and took it over, and they were yelling and screaming, you know, free Palestine, all that nonsense. And they sat down. It was a major operation. They took over the lobby of Trump Tower. And I thought it would have been fixed by now. Sometimes I overestimate the impact of media coverage, but I went over there myself about 6 hours later to see what the security situation was. That place is open to the public, way too much so. All right. In Israel, when you go to the movies, you go through metal detectors. They look in your bag. Trump Tower, the home and office in New York, the symbol of Donald Trump himself, you can just walk on in. Trump Tower, I love this place, but maybe, I don't know, is this adequate? I mean, you should kind of check in with somebody, don't you think? Ticket full. I'm about to approach and go down the escalator that President Trump went down on June 16, 2015, when he declared for president. It's a pretty symbolic spot, isn't it? So I understand it's open to the public and we want to keep it that way, sure, but you got to have some measure of security. How many more lessons do we need? This is insane.
Information.
That was a long clip. Jesus.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. But the thing is that what I wanted people to see is how upset he was. Okay, because this is a month or so old anyways. But the thing is, did you hear about that? About that they couldn't figure out how to go to the hospital?
I had heard that they had taken their time leaving the premises, which a lot of people thought was strange, because you would think if you have been under fire and your principal has been hit, you'd be getting out of the area, even if you didn't know exactly where the hospital was. You vacate the premises and then figure out where to go. Although it's strange to me that they would rely on their cell phones to try and figure out how to get anywhere. If this had been a real assassination attempt from, say, a foreign power, one would think that they would have a cell phone jammer or a signal jammer, in which case you're not going to have that available. Why would you not know where the different egress, routes are, or how to get to the nearest hospital? That defies logic to me. From what it's supposed to be, the best bodyguards in the world.
Yeah. Okay. But not just that. I was just thinking about it, and I'm just a nobody. I haven't had any training at all when it comes to any of this stuff. And I just have a little tiny bit of common sense. But what was weird to me is like, okay, these are Secret Service men that are supposed to protect very powerful people, yet they don't have a route to get away. If an emergency does happen, they have people that are too short to guarding the president. And then when they do get in the vehicle and they're in there, I guess it's, bulletproof, apparently, right? But
yes.
We also found out later after all this happened, that he had bombs, that he had some kind of bombs and a
Pipe bomb.
detonator and stuff, right? Yeah. So the fact they sat around, it was like they were waiting for something to happen to him. They didn't want to get to the hospital on time because, oh, well, we don't need to know about where he needs to go because we don't want him to make it to the hospital. See, it puts more and more coincidences onto these people to make them even look more guilty than they did before, when all they had to do is do the job that they were supposedly trained to do, which means you already have places mapped out. Because when I watched all the stuff unfold afterward with Dan Bongino, and it was a couple senators and some other people, and they were all talking about the mistakes, all the tons and tons of mistakes that were being made, 1, 2, 3, and then the Butler police saying we didn't know we were supposed to do this and that, we weren't contacted, we didn't have the same radios, and there were all the mistakes that were made that should never have been made. Okay, but if they don't even know that they're supposed to have the hospital routes or anything prepared and laid out, how are we supposed to believe that they even walked through the place to make sure that it wasn't bombs planted underneath the bleachers and all this stuff? I mean, watching this made me have no faith at all in them, in them guarding anyone. You know,
never attribute to evil what can be explained by incompetence. And I think that is what happened here. Now, I know a lot of conspiracy theorists are like, what's that?
A huge amount of it.
Right. But a lot of people believe, this was deliberate. They wanted him to die. No, I believe they just sucked at their job. Because remember, these were Biden,
I've never seen anyone do that bad of a job on every single level.
Well, I haven't either. I mean, you could make the argument that we've had assassination attempts and assassinations before. This one, you would think, would have been a little easier to pick up with all of today's surveillance and technology and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Real quick before I forget about it, Greg Kelly reminds me of a less douchey Patton Oswalt. The similarity is uncanny. It's very strange.
Really? I don't know. I don't guess I know who that is.
Patton Oswalt?
Yeah.
He's a short little fat dwarf fucking comedian who's extremely alt-left. Now, his complaint, Greg Kelly's complaint that, it's easy to walking out of the building. Two things come to mind. One, and he didn't mention it, but it bears repeating. It is open to the public. It is a hotel. It was never designed with the idea in mind that the owner would eventually become president of the United States. Mm-hmm. If it is that unsafe for the president, then maybe he should not have his offices in a public building. Mm-hmm. Well, the White House is public, Emperor. Part of it is. Yes, it is designed a bit differently than a hotel. So perhaps we should put the offices...
Because he just seemed unsettled. He seemed dismayed by all the coincidences, just like I did. When I saw the whole thing, and I really didn't think there was anything else about it. But when he started talking about them not even knowing...
They panicked. These are people who didn't know what they were doing. It's not coincidences. It's panic. It's a situation that none of them ever thought would really happen. And remember, these were Biden's Social Security or Secret Service guys. Mm-hmm. These were not hired by Trump. These were not his people. They very clearly were caught.
They all go through the same training. Isn't it like the
one
military?
would think, but
you send a whole group to boot camp, and then when that one's about to graduate, there's a whole nother group already training by the same people that trained the ones before and the ones before that, like that. Isn't that how it works? I mean, I would think.
I don't know the ins and outs of Secret Service training. I would think that it's a little more specialized. Clearly, that was not the case here.
The same people. Like you got 25 people, and they take classes, and they have to do shooting, and they have to do all kinds of athletic stuff because they have to be able to go in and out, jump, and do things to protect the president. So you'd think they'd have elite like Navy SEAL training or something just for them.
I don't know how that works. I will tell you that if they aren't combat vets, and I'm guessing a lot of them weren't. And anybody who's served the military who is a combat vet can probably back me up on this. All the training in the world does not, quantify, does not equal actually being in a live situation as it happens.
Yeah.
Some people reacted correctly by throwing him to the ground, getting on top of him. Others were trying to holster their guns and couldn't do it because the adrenaline hits and the panic hits and, oh shit, is there more than one shooter? Am I going to get hit? How am I going to protect a guy who's 6'4" when I'm 5 foot even? Things like that. So I think these people are very unprepared. I think that's been borne out in the investigation that has followed. The fact that this happened again with people getting on a golf course and were in a position to shoot at them, it just shows what a breakdown is. I said from the beginning he should hire Eric Prince and put him in charge of security, and that's what he should do. I imagine he's probably got somebody in there right now that he trusts, and things have gotten a lot better.
The big tall guy that was with him from his original group. He was the only original one that was there with him, the tall one that was standing right behind him when he did the fist bump. I think he's the one he put in charge.
I do know he had an SAS guy from British Special Forces that he put on there, which was unusual. Obviously that has improved, but I don't think there's any deep conspiracy here. I think these people just were bad at their jobs.
I understand that, what you're saying, because last week, or a little bit over a week ago, when I shot my 9mm in the back of my chicken coop, and I went deaf for like 2 days because I was standing in a coop and didn't have earplugs or anything, because it happened so fast. Everything went. It was so quick, and it was pouring down rain. It was a lot of shit going down, and I thought I was gonna be deaf because of that. And I thought how stupid I was, because I have ear protection. But just like you said, when things are happening really quickly, you're not covering every single crevice or whatever you want to call it to be prepared for something that's about to unfold. And I can understand that. But for all of them, every single person that was there that was for the Secret Service, every one of them fucked up. Every single one. So
and it's not just that.
How rare is that possibly? I mean,
when was the last assassination attempt that we had? Reagan back in the 80s. So we haven't had anything in 40 years. And it's not just the Secret Service.
But I'm sure other people have attempted assassinations.
None come to mind. If it's happened, then it's been very quiet.
So you might be right, but still, there
are layers of security involved there.
That was there. I know every single layer of security folded. I mean, a person died. Other people were injured really, really bad. All because these people that were supposed to be trained at the very best of the best, every one of them failed. And to me, that's shocking. And I pray that whatever's going on, whether it's Dan Bongino or whoever they're putting in there, that they are better trained. I mean, they've revamped the whole system, because apparently whatever they were doing was bullshit stupid, that if every single wall that they're supposed to have for protection was, none of them worked. That means like what happened in New Orleans when I was there, right before I got there from the hurricane.
Oh, the Sugar Bowl incident. Yeah.
People abandoned their posts. They didn't open all the levees. Whole groups of people drowned in the nursing homes because they flooded so bad. That was a terrible failure, but it wasn't completely flooded the whole city, because people did stay and do their job. So part of the people did their jobs and others failed.
But again, command and control failed. The mayor of New Orleans failed. The governor of Louisiana failed. They knew a week and a half that thing was coming, and that they live below sea level. This is what I mean when I said don't attribute to evil what you can attribute to incompetence, and that is a prime example. People that suck at their jobs, other people pay with their lives, and that's that. And I don't know that we need to Zapruder film this on Newsmax or whatever every time. We know they suck at their job. We're aware of all this. And he's putting his gun at the car. Well, he was very clearly behind the car. Even I could see that.
Well, how do we ever get to the point where we trust them again? I mean, what can we do as American citizens to get in a position to where we expect them to show us something that they're doing differently or whatever? That's what I'm talking about mostly, is about how do we get the people to believe in them again if they don't show us.
Well, I don't know that we need to believe in the Secret Service. Trump needs one has to believe in the Secret Service. How do we, the people? We
Everyone
don't.
that needs them. Every person. I mean, isn't there like ambassadors and tons of other positions that have Secret Service?
No, they
Yeah,
have
who gets
security,
Secret
but Secret
Service
Service,
besides
to my
the
knowledge, is specifically for the president, his family, the vice president, his family, and I believe that they do some law enforcement. I know they used to do like counterfeit money, that kind of thing,
Mhm.
to a limited degree. But there's not a whole lot of Secret Service agents. I think there's only like what 600-700 of them total.
Yeah, see, I don't know, but who do they guard besides the president?
Like I said, his family, the vice president, and his family. As far as I know, that's it. And well, of course, and the retired presidents. Like Biden would have, it has a Secret Service detail.
Yeah,
Bush
and,
does. Yeah.
Obama's, him and his wife and his
I
kids.
forgot about
Right.
Obama. Right. So they all have details of their own and will
Well,
for life
I
for
think
obvious
they're-
reasons.
They got better people with all of them than they left with this whole thing, because that was terrible. And I hope I never see anything like that, because to me, that just made us look like fools to the rest of the world, that we can't even.
Well, remember, Japan's prime minister got whacked. Granted, he
Yeah.
had just retired,
Oh.
but Abe got killed.
I'm just saying, it just doesn't look. It doesn't make a good look for a country that's supposed to be the strongest country in the world with the best military.
Well,
best
no, but
and
we're not going to
fail.
nuke Butler, Pennsylvania, as
bad.
much as I would like to. But
Well, I just wanted to bring that up, because when they talked about them not even knowing where the hospital was, or even anyone in the vehicle didn't have any way to even tell them, oh, you need to drive down this road, do this, because they did research beforehand to be prepared. That was shocking to me. I couldn't believe that. And that was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, the amount of failures, one after the other, the whole day long, even beforehand. They had weeks to prepare for this, and it looked like they did nothing. It was like a bunch
you
of
should volunteer to join the Secret Service.
I don't know. It was just terrible.
You're taller. You could do it. Think about it. You can shoot a gun.
Yeah, but I'm
Lieutenant
too old
Raccoon.
to do that now. You got to be young, don't you, to do that stuff? So
You're saying you're not young?
no,
I'm not going to say that for fear of my own life.
I'm not young. I'm not, I'm not a spring chicken, and I admit it. But the thing is, I take care of myself for one, but I'm not fit enough to be a Secret Service or anything like that. I don't think. Plus,
Okay, we can do a better job than they did.
Maybe I would definitely have cared enough to try to protect people, but I don't know. I'm done talking about that. But okay, so now I guess I'll bring up one of your little subjects that you.
Oh, well, thank you very much for throwing me a bone. Well, I guess we'll talk about one of your topics.
Let me see. I got to push present, share. I think it's this one. I think this is the one. Is this one of the ones?
Oh, yeah, this one's weird. Yeah. All right.
Is there a video?
Maybe. I don't really watch the videos. I find them annoying, and I'm always afraid of getting a copyright strike because I use too much of somebody's video, and NBC is a little trigger happy. All right, so this happened actually a couple weeks ago. I don't remember how many people were paying attention to the news. It happened in California, so a lot of you probably just shrug your shoulders like, yeah, well, of course it did. So Jack Hole McGee here drives up. His name is Guy Edward Bartkus, something like that. Anyways, 3 names. Drives himself up in a Ford Fusion. And that right there should have been alarm bells that he's driving a Ford. Because nobody drives American. Not if you want to get somewhere. So he drives his Ford Fusion up to a fertility clinic, parks his car, and then detonates it. Like he's some guy from Hamas or Al Qaeda. And much like their failures, he killed himself, only injured, I think, 4 others. It caused damage to multiple buildings and businesses within a 250-yard blast radius, which is a pretty good blast radius.
Yeah, I'm looking at the front of the building.
Right.
Wow. Uh-huh.
Anyway, so this guy's got a manifesto. Turns out he's an antinatalist, which I will be the first one to say, or a mortalist is what they also call him. I didn't know what that was at first, and I had to look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, he is a far-left activist who does not like the fact that people can have kids without consent. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. Now, if the rest of you in your minds are running into a vapor lock, like, well, okay, allow me to reiterate. And I use that term loosely because if you look at his picture, like, really? Is he, though? Is he? Apparently, he doesn't like the idea that parents could conceive and give birth to a baby without the consent of the child.
Yeah.
While the posts and the recording are, hang on, investigators are focusing on social media posts made by the suspect, including a 30-minute audio recording, which say they support anti-natalist views. While the posts and the recordings are still being verified, officials believe they reflect the ideology behind the bombing. Anti-natalism refers to the belief that no one should have kids. He's one of these extinctionist type people who believes that the earth is better off if humanity was to stop having kids and naturally disappear over time as everybody dies off. He does not believe in having kids without the consent of the child, which, as you know, is a paradox. How can a child not born yet give consent to being born or conceived? So that's this guy. And the further they dig into it, and the manifesto, of course, has not been released, like all the other manifestos of all these other far-left mass shooters all the time. This guy at least decided he was going to try a car bomb and picked one of the worst cars to try and explode. So there you go. There's this guy. And like I said at the start, this is kind of going to be a theme of what I'm getting at here. I think you muted yourself. Is that
Yeah, I did.
Most of if not all of the mass shooters, mass bombers, the violence, the assassinations are all far left lunatics. Maybe you can find a middle of the road guy or a right wing guy somewhere in there, but you're really having to dig to find them. Case in point, and we'll get to this a little later, is the assassination. What happened? Last night? 2 nights ago? Was it last night?
Mhm.
In Washington, and we'll get to that. It's always the left. They are the most violent people. And you played it earlier with Cheney's comments. Well, Cheney's not a left-wing guy. Well, maybe at the time he was in office, he wasn't. I wouldn't say that today. But the rhetoric that he's spouting is the same one that Obama said, the same one that Clinton said, the same one that Biden said, and the same thing that AOC has said. And all their little surrogates and all their little cronies about Trump is a threat to democracy. He's the worst threat in the Republic in our history. Ignoring the First World War and the Second World War and the War of 1812 when we got invaded. Well, we also got invaded. And the war of the Civil War and all that. Oh, this guy who was legally elected, took office, lost an election, legally vacated the office, ran again, and won again. All legally. But he's a dictator. Most dictators, in my experience, being a student of history that I am, with the degrees to prove it, don't relinquish power once they have it. Except for a guy named Cincinnatus. That's just one dude. This is a trend. And this is happening not just at this scale, but even small scale. I mean, you see it all the time on social media, which is the best place, because the media is not going to show you, where somebody attacks somebody for wearing a Trump hat or a MAGA hat, or somebody keys a guy's Tesla because he's driving a Tesla. You have no idea what that guy's personal politics are, but because he's driving a Tesla, somehow you are so personally offended, you have to key it or burn a Tesla dealership to the ground. Why? What does this help? You storm a library because you don't like Jewish people? You take over downtown New York or here in Cleveland because why? Free Palestine. We had protesters screaming at people last Friday downtown near where my building is. They were down by the Federal Building, which is about a block from where my office is. Screaming at people driving by because they're holding up anti-Trump and anti-conservative signs. Why? I'm not just screaming like, hey, join us, or hey, honk if you're horny type things, but no, like violent, like throw them out of office, chase them where they go, shit like that. To what? What purpose? Tell me this, Janet, has
I
anybody
have
ever
no
blocked a
idea.
highway that you were trying to get down and somehow that changed your view? Like, I'm late for work, but maybe these people have a point. Or when these assholes over in England or in France walk into one of these art galleries and throw soup on a Marlboro or something. You're like, oh, we're against oil. Huh. Well, they just destroyed a priceless masterpiece about a guy who's been dead for 300 years and has no idea what they're talking about. Maybe they've got a point. I'm coming around to their way of viewing things. And this happens
To
constantly.
me, it just seems like they want to find the most outlandish way to draw attention to themselves.
You're absolutely right. This is all performative.
You know?
And I
Yeah.
get it.
So it's like,
But here,
yeah.
I'll clue you in. If anybody out there is listening or knows someone who does this kind of performative nonsense, here's a pro tip. Doing these things is not going to make the common man join your side. If anything, it will entrench and turn those people against you. I am one of those people. I'm willing to listen to somebody's rational argument about anything. It may not be something I agree with, but I'll hear you out. The minute you block traffic so I can't get to work, or destroy a priceless artifact or a piece of artwork, or walk into a Trump tower and deface the presidential seal because of whatever nonsense you are supporting, and notice in that Newsmax video, it was one guy,
Yeah.
you lose me as a potential ally. Because at that point, I don't care what you have to say. I don't care what your point is. If you're going to take over Columbia University's library and scream down how much you hate Israel's and the Jews, now I'm an enemy of yours. Because now you're turning against an entire people, and for what? They don't even live in the place that you're trying to protest, and neither do you. But the minute you start, denouncing the entire group of people, we have a word for that. Called a Nazi. Nazis were far leftist too. Everybody likes to forget that. And it's getting worse. It's getting far worse. And the problem is you get people in the media that cheer this kind of nonsense. And then you have shit that happened in Washington, D.C. last night. And I know we'll get to that in a minute, but what it comes down to, Janet, and you talk about, and we've mentioned before, what can we, the people, the general public, do for things? I think things have gotten to the point, and they've gotten so bad, that no one really knows what to do. You clearly have one side of the aisle, and granted, it's a minority, but a very vocal and powerful one, that are willing to say and do anything to extremes to push their ideological view.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people on the right who are willing to denounce it, but we don't go any further than doing things like this on this show or on social media, things of that nature, because I don't think anybody knows what to do. What is the proper response to these things? Shoot back? Do we start having rallies like they do? Do we
But
start?
what's sad is this guy blew himself up, okay, to make a statement because he was going to commit suicide anyways, but he wanted to take people out with him when he went, or he just wanted to make the biggest splash that he thought he was going to leave, for him being famous forever because he died in an extremely violent death or whatever, took people out with it. It's the people that were maimed and injured afterward that might lose their homes and everything because they got to pay all these medical bills, This person probably didn't have any money. I'm sure that there's no money coming from him to help these people, pay their debt. But they still got to have surgery. They still got to have, hospital care and probably someone to take care of them for the rest of their life. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how bad off these people were. But see, that's the part. It's what's left behind is what hurts everybody around, because now we're all seeing, this person's losing this and that, or they lost their job, they can't pay their bills, all this stuff because they were injured by some lunatic. Okay, but they're not going to think about how they got injured. They're just going to think about what a horrible environment they have to live in because the people aren't being taken care of. They're being treated bad because they got blown up by some psychopath, and now they have nothing. I mean, how are we supposed to, as a society, take care of all the rape victims and all the child abuse victims and all the other people when everybody expects somebody to take care of them because they were hurt by someone else? You see what I mean? We've got to figure out a way to help our society come together and start helping each other. You know, I don't know. I don't, maybe I'm sounding like a lunatic or something, but I'm trying to understand the process of all of this and how our government or even our city governments or our states, what do they do to recoup, to help people like the people that were blown up in this incident with this gentleman? You see,
I don't know if they can.
What are we supposed to do?
I don't think. I think it really depends on where you live. It's going to depend on whether you get any kind of sympathy from a government entity. Clearly, this guy, when he detonated his car, didn't give a shit what the aftermath was going to be. He was trying to take people out to begin with. But imagine this. You go to work at a fertility clinic, a place that its entire existence is to bring life into the world. It is the absolute opposite of an abortion clinic.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing anybody thought when they got up to go to work that day is that they're going to be maimed or crippled or wounded because some nut job thinks that the human race needs to go extinct and was going to blow up his Ford Fusion next to the building. How do you combat that kind of thing? Because we've gotten to a point,
I don't know,
on Friday about the pendulum in society going from, far left and a lot of people keeping quiet because they were polite or they didn't want to be shouted down. They didn't want to offend people. That time has gone. Whether you want to call it against anti-woke or black fatigue, which I'm seeing a lot of people, talking about on Twitter, or they're, anti-DEI, or whatever the case may be, people are done putting up with it. And they're not going to go along with it anymore. And granted, most of it's verbal. Most of it is a passive resistance that we're just not going to play along anymore. But when you have actual acts of violence like this, because the general public, the majority of people, are not willing to get in line like they were before, or at least stay quiet, and they act out in this fashion, I don't know how to combat that. We've
almost every single incident. I think I have one of these on here. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to read them that talk about almost every single one of these incidences. After the fact, the people will say, "Oh, they were doing this," or they had said certain things that they were wanting to hurt people, and after the fact, they find out all this stuff that this person was having all kinds of problems. They were on all kinds of medication, or lots of different things. They just got divorced, or their family was killed in a car accident. I mean, just some kind of trauma, or that the person has been in and out of trouble for many years. Like the guy that did the running over the people down in New Orleans, right?
Yeah, Sugar Bowl. Yeah.
Okay. So they find out lots of stuff afterwards. So a lot of this is a mental health issue. I mean, you know what I mean? That we have a lot of people that need therapy or that need help, but they're not getting any, even though their parents or relatives or whatever are saying, "Hey, I need some help. This person is really messed up."
Take it a step further. You have people that are mentally unhealthy, or they are just kind of hanging on, or they have some kind of issue. They latch on to one of these talking points, these rhetorics from AOC, from Obama, from Biden, from Clinton, and they're telling them, "Hey, people like you or people similar to you, well, the Republicans hate you, Trump hates you, conservatives don't like you, they're coming after you." Well, all of a sudden, these people who are on the ragged edge of sanity, or who have some kind of trigger event, are now given a target and a reason. Well, this is the reason why things are so bad for you, whether real or imagined. I think a lot of them take it in their mind and like, okay, these are the people I need to strike back against because that's why things are rough for me, or whatever their mental break is. Now they're given someone to blame for it.
Yeah.
Whether directly, or they take that and make three jumps and like, all right, we start off with He's a threat to the republic. That means everybody who's liked him must also be a threat to the republic or a threat to me.
Or
A threat
people
to
that
trans people, a
voted
threat
for
to
that
gays,
person,
a
or if
threat
they
to women, a threat to
or if
minorities.
if they believe that you know, like let's say you have a bumper sticker on your car that says something about you being a Christian, right? So you're part of the problem because you're a Christian. You must be conservative. See, so you must have voted for him. So
Well, if
you
you're
need to
Christian, then
be
you
taken
don't
out.
like gays, or you don't like
Yeah,
trans people,
that's
or
what
you
I'm
don't
saying.
like whatever
Even
the
though
case
they're
may
not
be.
thinking about or even trying to get to know the people, just like you're seeing on all of these apps, X, Instagram, TikTok, and stuff, people talking about other people they don't even know, they never met. They don't know anything about them, but yet because they have a post or they shared something or they like something that someone else had posted, that person must hate that person because they're a Jew, or they hate that person because they're a Muslim, or they don't like them because they're black, or they're white, or they're Hispanic, or they're a woman, or because he's a white conservative male and it says so on his profile somewhere, then he hates trans. You see what I mean? Everybody's putting something out there about this, and this, pointing the finger at everyone instead of pointing the finger back at themselves, saying, what can I do to make this better?
The time for personal responsibility has long since vacated this country, especially when we have an entire generation that's now been told either to blame someone else for their plights or being told to blame you because of the way you look, you're the reason. What? You're white male. Your ancestors from 17 dickety whatever are the reason why things suck today. Does that make sense? Not a bit. Are we going to keep up with that? Yes, we are. And I don't know how you combat that. Like I said, you have an entire generation that has been radicalized to believe, a variety of different things because the media was all for it. A lot of people were on board with the message, or they were on board with. Some people are just shit starters. They just like the chaos, so they get in on it.
For sure.
And
or they're already on the edge, or they're a drug addict or alcoholic, and they're already on the edge. So they think that, they're invincible. And most people that are like that, sociopaths, like Ted Bundy and other people, serial killers and other people that have that psychopathy, they think they're smarter than everyone else. So no matter what they do, no one's going to figure it out because they're too smart. Like, what was it, BTK, that sent a letter to the police department saying that, you got the wrong guy, whatever it was. And then they figured out it was the letterhead he had sent some code that was on the disc that he sent them, said the name of the church they was a deacon in. So they were able to catch him because of that, because they all believe they're better and smarter than the person that, or the people they kill, because they don't think the same way as the rest of us do. So a lot of them are easier to catch if you can find that mistake that they're making.
Okay, but the problem is, I don't know about mass murders and all that. The problem is there are so many people that are unhinged or have become that way out there, and we don't know who they are until they decide to blow up a fertility clinic, walk into a church and shoot up a daycare. Walk into a dealership, a Tesla dealership, and light it on fire. I don't know. Go to Washington, D.C., gun down 2 people leaving the Jewish Museum for no other sin than being Jewish. Only one of the 2 was. Not that it mattered.
Yeah.
You don't know who these people are until they act out. And at least in their mind, they've been given license to do just these things. What they've been told at a steady drumbeat since at least 2000.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part.
Because I remember when, I don't know when, it was years ago though, when Maxine Waters would say, get in their face, go in there while they're trying to eat dinner at a restaurant.
Right, anywhere you find them, in the restaurants, on the street. Yes.
And nothing happened to her. See that?
Well, no.
That's another reason why I don't understand. If I was to stand up in church or, in front of a bunch of people at a school or a meeting or whatever, and I was to tell people we need to get together and take out these people and do this, that, and the other, somebody would have called and I probably would have got arrested for terroristic threatening or something, just because I'm a nobody,
Now, if the Pope went and did that,
Waters, nothing happens. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Nothing. You're right. You're absolutely right. If you were to stand up and the crazy white lady wants to launch a holy war against, I don't know, Hindus, then yes, they're going to call the cops on you, as they should. Anybody who gets up and starts preaching violence, should have some, eyeballs on them. And, the old joke, well, the FBI is like, oh, they were on our radar. Of course they were. Did you do anything about it? No, you didn't. And that's another controversy that came out today, that the University of Harvard was told by the Trump administration that you will no longer be allowed to invite or give scholarships or enroll foreign students because the problems they continue to have with the harassment of Jewish students by primarily Palestinian and other Muslim students.
Did you?
And they're fighting tooth and nail when
that you sent me.
I'm sorry, it is not. That is another story. I think we'd get to it. It just came out today. But it's been an ongoing battle. It's been in the courts that, they're trying to fight the Trump administration from deporting a lot of these people, because they're students that they're foreign students. They're here on scholarship or whatever. And it's, push the Jews into the sea and we've got to kill them. And the universal intifada or whatever the hell it is, they're jihad.
Yeah.
We don't need those people here. Get out. You're not American. You don't live here. You're here by invitation, and if you're going to call for violence against someone else, then go home and do it. If you want the Palestinian cause to win so bad, go back there. This isn't Palestine.
That Trump has tried to do any of those type of things, he's got 5 judges saying he doesn't have the right to do that, even though he's the president. So
right, and they're fighting in the courts anyway. And I think ultimately they're going to win out because it is. I mean, it is. There's no right to come into the United States. And for everybody on the left who wants to keep, this drumbeat, which is constant, and I see it every day, this is not an open country. It's no different than anybody else. You don't have to be here. We're a very generous and inviting people, but maybe that needs to start changing. Maybe we need to start being really meticulous about who we're willing to let into our borders. Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is a God-given right to Americans. Something else that's a controversial point. The Constitution does not cover non-citizens. And that includes the freedom of speech. Now, maybe something that, is extended to you as a courtesy, but at the same time, that can be revoked. If you're going to call for threats and violence, or you act out and actually attack people, or take over the student union, or the student library, or take over the highway, or a dealership, then you don't need to be here anymore. And examples need to be made of these people. Get out.
It sounds good to me. You're preaching to the choir, but in today's digital landscape, it's like the spread of false information can lead to dangerous outcomes. I mean, you'd think people would know that by now. If you're on an app, how do you believe? Why would you believe everything that you're reading is real? I mean, it's crucial for everyone to think critically. At least they should, and verify the information that they're sharing, think about the impact of what you're about to share. I got really upset when people were sharing that woman who said she slept with 100 men or whatever, and
1,000
or 1,000 men. Okay. In 24 hours or something, whatever it was, but it was disgusting. And every time someone shared it, I didn't even comment. I would just post another thing that says, please don't share that. Why give her the clicks? Why make her famous for being a slut, basically, is what she was doing. And all you're doing is encouraging our young girls and our young men to think, wow, look at me. I can strap a board to my ass and have sex with that lady and be famous. It's just disgusting.
At that point, it's less of a vagina and more of a clown car.
Well, whatever it is, if she sits on a stool, she's probably going to fall to the floor. I mean, it's sad to say that, but when we click on it, we're giving relevance to it. We're making it meaningful when it shouldn't be. We should go right past it or delete it or block it or whatever it is. That's what I do. And that's why I only have 12,000 something people following me, because I care about who I follow and I care about what comes on my timeline, because I actually do give a shit about stupid crap like that getting retweeted over and over again. It's disgusting and it's perverted. If you want, that's why I keep saying, like with X, if what's his name, Elon wants to have porn on X, make it XXX, and that's the side that you click on that and it goes over and it takes you over to all the porn shit. Why do I have to be bombarded with naked pictures being sent to my DMs or in my timeline?
If you don't want me to see more videos or pictures, just say so.
Well, I'm just saying.
I've never heard a complaint.
If I don't want to be on a list, added to a list, I should have to be asked before someone can add me to a list. I shouldn't be having to check my own profile every week or every other day to see how many lists I've been added to, especially when they're mostly porn and other bullshit like that. It's taking away my right to say no to some of these things. And that's one thing. Me not being able to block people anymore, basically, because they can still come to my profile and still look at it. I still take pictures of it or whatever they want. I just can't see them now because I blocked them. See, to me, that's ridiculous. A person that I don't deem responsible enough to see my stuff shouldn't be able to even see my stuff. And I should have the right to get rid of them for that and not have to have a private profile where if I'm trying to run a business or whatever it is, I should be able to have people find me. But if I don't want them to share my information, I should be able to block them and stop them from sharing my information. I just think that's a ridiculous thing that he did. And I griped about it back when he did it. And I still think it's ridiculous today because I don't see how it's going to help him make more money when people are mad because, they're not going to.
I think it was less about money and more about the freedom of speech type thing that he was trying to push. And I don't necessarily know that the argument he was trying to make really works for what he did in removing people's ability to block others. But I guess that's an entirely different discussion. I don't particularly care for it myself.
It all connects, really, when it's online. If somebody is telling other people we need to get together and take these people out, or we have to work together and 86 someone, whatever, like we just had, because I have that whole thing about him being called in after you're done with this thing that I have up now. But it all connects because we have to show some type of responsibility as an adult, which we're supposed to be grown-ups, to be on an app like YouTube or any of these things that we're doing and sharing information to try to do the best we can to share information that's real so that we don't risk other people's lives. I mean, I was talking about something the other day in a space and they were laughing at me because I was talking about a kid that committed suicide because they were on Snapchat and they thought they were talking to another kid, a 13-year-old girl. And they sent pictures because what he thought was a 13-year-old girl asked for pictures of nudity or whatever. And he sent them. And then he got told that they were going to share these pictures with other people if they didn't pay him with their PayPal every day, whatever, right? And he was so embarrassed. And he said, I don't have that kind of money. This is my lunch money and stuff. I don't have a job. I can't afford to pay you this money. So if you don't, we're going to share these pictures. So he was petrified. So he killed himself in his front yard. And his parents would try to get the police and whatever involved in finding out who the person was that was blackmailing him in his Snapchat, and they had to go to court over it. This whole thing was on Nancy Grace, but it was just this terrible, heartbreaking thing because all of us sooner or later are going to have a niece, nephew, or a child of our own that's that same age, that's under pressure because they don't know how to handle something because they're a kid, they're not an adult,
and they're in a situation they don't know how to get out of.
Revolve around the same thing. When you have the responsibility to act a certain way with other people with information that doesn't belong to you, it's not really yours, and what you say and how it's going to affect other people, we should try to be a little bit more responsible. And if you aren't responsible, someone should call you out and say, man, that post you made was really stupid. Why would you post something like that?
of
instead of
stupid.
being afraid to do it.
Stupid me did an unprofessional thing and did not have a glass of water here for me as I am talking and getting parched. Janet, I'm going to be very unprofessional and say I will be back in 1 minute as I go grab a glass of water. Be right back.
Okay. Well, I brought this court papers say a suspect in embassy killings declared. He did it for Palestine and he did it for Gaza. But the thing is, this isn't my article. This is what Emperor said he wanted to talk about. But that's all I wanted to really tonight's show. I wanted to people to think about what it is that you're saying, whether it's on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Rumble, YouTube, whatever app you're on, X, to try to share what you know is real. Don't just read the headline and think, oh, wow, see that cool headline, I'm going to share it. Because you don't really know if that's exactly what it means. Just because the headline says something doesn't mean that's really what the article's about. So I share articles all the time. I don't share them on my timeline, but I'll take it and I'll share it to a group chat so that other people in there can read it. And if there's anything really good in there, then I might bring it up and talk about it. And the only way I can remember that I even saw it after you see hundreds and hundreds of things go down your timeline is by sharing it in a DM group or something like that. So you can go back to it later. I try to bookmark as many as I can too. But it's not easy. I mean, it isn't easy because there's so much information out there. And I'm lucky because I have a lot of people that send me things too to read. Because if it wasn't for my friends that are on Facebook and other apps that I'm not on, there's a lot of things I wouldn't even know about when it was happening at the time. The day that I was playing one of my D&D games, which is a Pathfinder game, a role-playing game or whatever, was somebody had sent me a text message and told me that President Trump had been shot. And I was devastated over it. And then I was scrambling trying to find out about it. So, I mean, I'm just saying. So if it wasn't for my friends giving me information on a lot of things, I probably wouldn't even have known about it until, later on or whatever, maybe a day late or whatever. So it is important that you share information if you get it, because other people may not even ever hear about it or share it with anyone else in their family and be able to share factual information if they don't know anything about it. So I filled in the gap because I can talk a lot, but you can
thank you. And I do apologize for that.
Now.
See, back when I used to do the Emperor's Court, all four of us would always have our own drinks. And one of my show co-hosts, Lulu, that was really her self-appointed job was to make sure everybody had their drink of choice. Boyar usually had a beer. Highlander usually had some kind of pop. I generally had water. Lulu usually had a beer. A lot of my other friends that would rotate in as co-hosts had their own drinks that they would bring. And everybody was kind of had their own thing. So I'm sitting here and my throat's getting drier and drier. I'm like, all right, time to grab a glass of water. Shit, no water. I forgot. So out
Sorry,
of
my nose is
practice.
bloody.
My apologies.
But
so
you
where
go
were
ahead and talk about this article now if you want.
Sure. This, like I said, I believe happened last night. Court paper says suspect in embassy killings declared, I did it for Palestine. I did it for Gaza. And you got to imagine that's exactly how he sounded. Elias Rodriguez, 31, shouted, Free Palestine, as he was led away after his arrest, according to charging documents provided chilling new details. The Wednesday night attack in the nation's capital that killed an American woman and an Israeli man that had just left an event at the museum. Now, I believe that he worked for the Israeli embassy in Washington. But what it came down to is this couple, who were about to become engaged, I believe he had just bought a ring, were gunned down by this guy who came from Chicago, if I remember correctly, and went down there. And he, at a home listed in public records for Rodriguez's mother in suburban Chicago. I know, everyone. Show me your shock face that a gunman who is an ultra lefty came from Chicago. And he flew to Washington and he waited outside the Jewish Museum and then gunned down people that he thought were Jewish. One of them was not. The point being that he was doing this as they're leading away. He said, I'm unarmed. I did this for Palestine. I did this for Gaza. He then went on to say that he was inspired by that Air Force guy, his words, that lit himself on fire a few months ago when he was protesting the Gaza thing. Now, I'll be honest, I completely forgot about that guy, the one who lit himself on fire. So you can, see how much of an impact he made. But the story has gotten some legs, and it doesn't mention it here, but this has been going on Twitter all day. I've been following it. Supposedly, this guy, who is very clearly radicalized, is a fan. Now, this is all alleged. There's a lot of stuff being posted that looks legitimate, but to your point earlier, Janet, be careful what you believe. So at this point, we're going to say this is what's being speculated very rampantly, that he was a fan of a far-left Twitch streamer called Hassan Piker. I don't know if you know who that is.
Never heard of him.
Out loud and proud communist, very pro-Palestine kind of guy. He is a streamer on Twitch. Now, for anybody who's not in the know, Twitch is a website and program that allows you to stream pretty much anything. Games, chat. That's where Amaranth got her start, where a bunch of whores would just get into an inflatable pool in their apartment, and for lots of money, they'd write your name on their arm in magic marker, that kind of nonsense. And they have a history of coming down very hard on anybody who's even remotely conservative or in the middle. But if you're on the left, you can say the most insane shit and get away with it. Hassan is one of those guys. He's a bomb thrower. And he's a multimillionaire through being through his Twitch streaming, but has no problem trying to spout, communist talking points while obviously being the hypocrite that he is and not living that kind of lifestyle. That said, the speculation is that Twitch is now going to be forced and have to start playing more by their own rules because you have one of their people who very well may have radicalized this guy enough to go, or at least in part, again, this is alleged, to go to D.C. and shoot some Jews because he's pro-Palestine. This is what I mean. This is the continued examples, and they are every day, and there are many, from small altercations down to things like this, or bombing a fertility clinic, or burning a Tesla dealership, or attacking, artwork. It's always these violent, far-left nut jobs. They're everywhere, they're in every walk of life, and they're attacking across the line. These poor people did nothing to anyone. The woman actually, if I remember the article correctly, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, actually worked on public relations or peace relations with Palestine.
Yep.
How does this further anybody's agenda? What kind of sympathy do you think that you're going to get from gunning down two innocent young people who did nothing to anyone? It's really hard to try and push your side as a side of peace when you keep doing things like this. And the fact he was taken into custody unarmed and is going to live in prison for how many years now? At taxpayer expense. It's easy for me to say, this has to stop. But the reality of it is, it's not going to. And I don't think anybody out there knows how to stop it. And you know what? And these pro-Palestinian people, this is, if you want to, so if you are pro-Muslim, pro-Hamas, pro-whatever, you're allowed to have your opinion. When you start advocating for the destruction of someone else or doing things like this, then you've crossed a line. And it's happening everywhere. It's happening in Australia. It's happening in England. It's happening.
What do you think our government should do to the people that do this? What do you think should happen to this person? Do you think he should get the death penalty?
I do not believe that Washington, D.C. has the death penalty. You'd have to double check me on that. I don't think they have it. He's going to get tried. He's going to be found guilty. He admitted it, the whole nine. He's going to go to prison, and that's it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Two
but
people are still
the
dead.
sad truth is these two young people died.
Yep.
They'll never have a family. They'll
Nope.
never, their parents will never be able to hold their grandchildren. You know what I mean? They took this, whatever this would have been, he took it completely away from this era. And now this person, this 31-year-old guy, will get the death penalty or whatever, the criminal penalties,
Life in
and
prison.
go to prison. And then you and I will work for the rest of our lives and pay taxes for this guy to eat, sleep,
Yes.
drink, get online, eat hamburgers, whatever. We'll pay for him for the rest of his life. And how many hundreds of thousands of more of these people are we taking care of and feeding and clothing and stuff?
There is a part of the
These
world.
people will never, ever have that.
There's
That's
a
what
part of
we're
the
doing.
world and a part of our own population, and thankfully, I hope it's not a lot. We're going to hold this guy up as some kind of hero because he struck
They already
back
are.
in the name of Palestine and Muslims and everything else.
Mhm.
And
Scary.
no, it's scary, but it's sad. It really is sad. And
It's
you know what? If I was being honest and gave voice to thoughts that I have about things like this and how I would handle this, you're saying, what are we going to do to people like this? Well, one of the things the Trump administration is doing is starting to try and kick people out or remove those, who are going, over the line when it comes to their version of protests or demonstrations. But something like this, I don't really know how you defend against it. If somebody really wants to, they're gonna, open up and shoot at people. And you never see it the other way around. It's never in reverse. You never see a gang of Jewish people walking into New York University, storming, the library and start threatening Muslims.
Mm-mm.
You never see, drive-by Jews hitting out the window with an Uzi, gunning Muslims down in, outside of a halal, a convenience store or whatever.
Nope.
And I have to watch what I say, which is sad. These people don't, and they don't suffer any repercussions. But you and I would.
I have many times on YouTube. I've been a cyberbully, spreading medical misinformation, all these different things simply because they don't like what I have to say. And, but I'm still doing it, until I'm not allowed to do it anymore, or they take my speech completely away, or I'm not around to speak anymore. Then I'll
And
quit.
this is why I stopped doing my own show. Back in 2016 was the last year we did it. From 2005 to 2016, we would do 100,000 people a show. And we collectively, as a group, and it was the four of us that were the main hosts, and then we had like 4 or 5 of our buddies would step in when somebody wasn't able. As a group, collectively, we agreed we're going to stop now because we see the writing on the wall. And on my show, I had a far-right guy, myself, a out loud and proud communist, and a bisexual chick who was, left-leaning. I had a lesbian friend that was on there all the time that's right-leaning. I had 2 black friends around all the time. The most diverse crowd you can think of. Everybody got along. Not everybody agreed on stuff, but a lot of it was, jokes and ball busting and comedy and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it said to me a lot when we all came together. It said, we don't want to do this anymore because we're afraid for our livelihoods, for our jobs, for the ability to make money, because we don't want someone to say something to an employer or to whomever and get us fired, get us blackballed, come and sit outside of our house, try going looking for us. Our audience was, and it was mostly a kind of a satire and comedy thing. But Janet, that was in 2016. That was almost 10 years ago, and it was bad then. And we just stopped doing it.
Well,
if we kept on going, who knows how big we'd be today? I'm sorry.
I think it's worse. I think it's
It
terrible.
is worse.
I mean, I can't go to any platform. I don't care which one it is, without seeing hate, tons and tons of hate. Walking down the street in some cities and be white, whether you're a male or female, and just be, dressed conservatively where your ass isn't hanging out of the bottom of your skirt, things like that. They look at you as someone who's got to be a conservative. So we're going to kill her, or we're going to beat the fuck out of her, and we're going to take all her shit. We're going to teach her a lesson, or
No,
we're gonna
I,
make
for
her
one,
lose
am
her
all for
shoes.
attractive women having their ass hang out, but that's me, red-blooded American.
You know what I mean? If I'm not dressed appropriately for that, what they think is someone who is left-leaning or would agree on some of the things that they agree with, then and I don't have tattoos all over me, or I don't
Prove it.
have, I've got one tattoo,
That's it.
but it's on my arm. See?
Whoa. Yeah, I know about that one. Whoa.
But you know what I mean? And
Trust
it's
but verify.
scary. It's scary to think that because I look different than someone else, I'm a target. And I just think that's sad. I just think it's a sad state to bring your children up in a place where because of their skin tone, they've already got a target on them, or because their mom has a bumper sticker on her car, her kid's got a target on them. And
I have a
think
rule.
that's a scary, scary thought. What?
And anybody can check me on this. If you see any car that's got 3 bumper stickers or more, I guarantee you those stickers are political in nature of one kind or another. That is a political nut job or activist, whether it's right or left. And you can check, folks. Don't take my word for it. The next time you see a car with 3 bumper stickers or more, double check. I'm willing to bet those are political in nature, and that person's a really loud political activist on either side of the aisle. Avoid those people.
I don't have
Go
any
to the
bumper
car.
stickers, but I do have a window cling. And I posted it on my timeline showing on my truck window. So I do have a window cling on my window.
Well, ours isn't that cute? Yes. Okay.
People
Window
will know if they see my truck that I am definitely a conservative. So, but I'm proud to be conservative. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of being an Air Force brat, and a person who's a Christian, who believes that Jesus died for my sins, and that I want to help people. I want to be a good person. I want to be the best that I can be, that I'm never too old to learn, that I believe that people should have the right to live their own life without having other people try to control their lives. As long as you're not breaking laws, people should leave you alone unless you want, help.
And I guess that's where you and I differ on that. And this maybe comes as a shock to you and your listeners. I'm actually a very quiet guy in person, and I don't really talk much about politics to anybody. You have to really know me to even know what side of anything I stand on. And it's for, it's really just to make life a lot easier for me, because things are so, I don't think radicalized is the right word. I think things are so divided that it just isn't worth the time, because everything we do now somehow identifies us as to where we are, what movies we watch, what videos we watch, what TV shows, what books, you name it. Music. Everything now has to have some kind of political view, and even people that don't really follow it. It's almost like they have to try and look at some kind of insight into your life. Well, he watches this or listens to that. He must be conservative or liberal or what have you. And it's just exhausting, and it's just tiring. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to engage with anybody. The only thing on my car is I have a one of those license covers that celebrates the Ohio State University national title last year. That's it. And I just bought a brand new car. Paid cash, not that I'm bragging, but I am. But I don't want to engage with people anymore. Not that I ever really did. Polite conversation's one thing. You can't do it anymore. Jesus,
see, even in my front yard, I have a flagpole.
I've
with
got
American
that,
flag on it.
and that's kind of the running joke, at
A
least in
big,
this part
tall
of
one. I
Ohio.
mean, really tall. One that
Oh.
you have to bring up and down with a
Well, that
flagpole.
most flagpoles are, unless you got like a 5-foot flagpole. But why would
Well,
you
I'm
want
not talking about the one that hangs on your front porch. I'm talking about a real flagpole, and it has lights above it, because I mean you shouldn't have it out in the dark without light over it, things like that. Because and when mine get all tore up and ripped, I take it down. I burn it or I bury it. I try to be respectful to the flag, because that's how I was raised, and I'm proud to be an American. And I don't think you should bash America when you're in another country's soil either. A lot of things that I believe, and I'm proud to believe that. I'm not ashamed to tell people about it.
And that's fine, but it's like if
I
somebody's
have
doing that in
lost
front of me,
jobs. I have lost many jobs because of my opinion. So, which is fine. I'll just deal with it and get something else to do. I'm not too good to wash dishes or wait a table if I have to. So I'll just do whatever I have to survive, but I'm not going to pretend I'm something I'm not, or be ashamed of who I am simply because, but I don't work for the government. I don't have any other jobs where I have to worry that, the government's going to fire me or take away my 401k or whatever, that type of thing. So I'm lucky in that aspect, I guess.
and I'm not saying you should. I'm simply saying if some idiot in front of me is bashing the president or bashing America or whatever, I'm just not going to engage with the guy, because there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to change his mind.
Put myself out there to get robbed going to my car. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of common sense, but like what I'm doing here, just this little tiny channel that I have here, I've gotten death threats. I get lots of hate.
I sent you death threats because you were annoying me. That's all. Don't blame me for that.
So I don't have a problem with that, though. I just say, oh, well, and if it's really bad, like I had a couple this last week that were really insightful with the whole 86 number and stuff like that put on there, and I reported them, and then I deleted them because I don't want them on my posts. But
how
usually
childish
I leave their dumbass comments up there because other people say, what a dumbass, so it's not just me that thinks it. There's other people that do it, but it is scary, because you think, do they know where I live? Are they going to find my house? How do you, a lot of people, would just say, I'm not doing it anymore. And that's what it is. That's what they try to do, is intimidate you into doing something or not doing anything anymore. Like on any of these apps, if you get attacked enough, a lot of people just say, screw it. And they just delete their account. And it's sad because these type of people, like you just said, every single one of these people that did any of these things were a huge whack job leftos, that, they hate anything about being a decent, good, hardworking person. You know what I mean? So, it's just sad that that's where we are in our country, that we can't really stop it. There's nothing we can do.
I certainly understand those who would delete their accounts out of fear that one of these crackpots are going to come looking for them, or someone's going to make a call to an employer. The ex-wife many years ago was concerned. The one and only time I edited one of our shows, we had a funny segment that my one friend did at the end. It was very, very popular. It was very funny. He always wrote it in advance. And he was very much, at least at the time, he's now far, far to the left. He was then, but not like he is now. It was of the opinion, much like most comedians, that there are no sacred cows. Everybody was a target. And people would write in every week with, hey, why don't you make fun of this or this kind of person or this topic or people who believe in this? He went after everybody. There's one group of people, not the alphabet people, but a different group, that even my ex-wife was afraid that because although it was a very popular segment and very funny, those people might take it offensively and come looking for us. And we actually took that down. We had a big fight about it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But, the Charlie Hebdo thing had just happened too. So it's like, all right, we'll do this. I would say today, anybody that comes looking for me would be a very unhealthy thing for them to do. That changed the way I look at a lot of things, including
I know how to
home
shoot.
defense.
So I protect what I have. I don't have a lot, but
I'm a very good shot.
I will go down with the ship, basically. That's what I tell people, because I would. I do believe in that. I believe in protecting what's yours, and that I have the right to do that. So, whatever happens is going to happen. But all I can do is just do the best I can to be as safe as I possibly can. And I try to be, decent about it. And I try not to be a bitch to people. I try to say thank you to people and tell them I'm sorry if I make a mistake, things like that. I try to be a decent person. But if someone's going to push me too far to where I feel like I have to protect myself, that's what I'm going to do. And I expect every American to do that. We should have the right to defend ourselves no matter what, like that young man and his girlfriend. It's sad that, they were just spending time together and some nut just had a bullseye on them.
They didn't even have a chance to defend themselves. They were just gunned down like animals.
Mm-hmm. It's sad. And I hope that he does get life in prison and never gets a chance to get out. But I wish our prisons were a little less nice,
I don't know that I would ever classify our federal prisons as nice, but...
Well, they get 3 meals a day. They get to take a shower. They get to have a pillow. They get to have a lot of things that they took away from the people they killed.
Well, hopefully he'll be traded around like a baseball card between the inmates.
Well, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But what I'm saying is it's just sad that this person gets to live and we have to take care of them for the rest of their lives. And he's only 31, so he's going to live a long time, I'm sure. So it's sad to do that. But all right, I guess I'll bring up do you want me to bring up the, let's see. I want to bring up, where was that one? Oh, here it is. I want to bring up this one about the Comey thing. Is that all right?
Well, it's your show. You can do what you want.
Okay.
Whatever you want to talk about, babe, it's up to you.
This one, because I thought this was pretty good. The Secret Service interviewing ex-FBI Director James Comey over the 8647 Trump assassination threat report. And because he had a position in the government, there's no way he didn't know what that meant when he put it on his Instagram account. And I saw it because Laura Loomer posted it, and she was smart because she videotaped it and took photos and stuff of it, of the whole thing, everything he did. Because when I went back to it, I saw it, and then within seconds, it was changed to him sitting on a deck chair like thing out on the sand, acting like he never did it, but he did. He knew exactly what he was doing. But here we go. I'm going to play this.
It's a sophomore thing to do. It's a fucking high school kid would do this.
Yeah.
To be a former director at the FBI to act in such a fashion is disgraceful, and it should be embarrassing.
Yeah, it should be. But I think they did take him in. It said that they escorted him there to invest, to talk to him. So hopefully he'll get punished, because he should be punished. The American people deserve to see people who do that kind of thing, even though they're a congressman, a senator, a state representative, a mayor, a governor, and if they do something like that, if we had done it, we would have gotten in trouble. Something would have happened. We'd have been reprimanded in some way. So for us to be able to see somebody in that position being reprimanded in some way makes us feel like it's finally getting to be on a level playing field. And that's all we're asking. And we think, because of what Trump said when he ran for office, that we were going to have that. So I'm hoping that, within a month or so, we're going to see some changes happening, and these people start getting what they deserve. So here we go. I'll play it now. I'm going to make it big. Here we go.
He knew exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent. but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard because people like me and they like what's happening with our country. Our country has become respected again and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he
Well, he
wasn't calling
apologized
for
because he was hit.
violence. But
look, he's a very
what
bad,
do you want to
look,
see happen?
he is a-
What do you want to see happen?
I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. But I will say this, I think it's a terrible thing. And when you add his history to that, if he had a clean history, he doesn't. He's a dirty cop. He's a dirty cop. And if he had a clean history, I could understand if there was a leniency. But I'm going to let them make that decision.
See, I like that answer. That he's going to let his people that he put in charge of that, let them make the decision. And that's what he put him in there for. I like that. But we need to get some decision. You know, we need some answers because of it, because that's how we, the people, believe that's how the country's supposed to work. If you break the law, you get arrested, you go to court, or whatever the means of you know, sorting out crimes and things like that in your state are. Everyone's should be able to be held accountable for their actions. And just because this person used to be, you know, a high person in the government doesn't mean that he gets away with it. You know, it's just like any other crime, like all these crimes, you know, with against children or, you know, people raiding and looting and burning businesses. You know, I don't care if it was, you know, some famous actor that was helping them, then he should be, you know, held accountable too, just like anybody else would be. And once we start seeing that type of reaction from this government, I think a lot more people that probably didn't even vote this last time will start thinking, hey, we can have a government that actually follows the letter of the law, because a lot of people still don't believe that government is held accountable for anything they do. And if we can see it happen, I think it'll make a big change because, you know, like our children have a chance to look up and say, wow, you know, it's nice to have, be able to grow up, be able to get a job where my boss and I are on level ground when it comes to breaking the law. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that they do follow through and that they don't just disappoint us, because honestly, I'm almost to the point right now. I was very positive when I found out that Trump was president, when he got reelected again this second time after what we went through with Biden. And I was really worried that if Biden or what's her face was elected, that our country was not going to be able to survive it. You know, when it came to freedom and rights of people like me, you know, in our country. But I am losing that. I'm starting to feel like if this administration doesn't do the things that they said and start holding people accountable, that I probably will never vote again. I really am getting to where I'm losing faith in government. And if they're not going to do anything for me, then why should I work the polls and why should I do all the things that I was doing? And I'll just say, screw it. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to become
and
like.
Now you are where most Americans have been for at least the last several elections.
Well,
which is everybody understands that politicians will promise you the world because they're trying to get themselves elected. Well, that only works if you deliver on at least some of the things that you want. Now, there were a lot of high hopes with Trump coming into office because, you know, he's on the warpath. He's learned from his first time around. He's not going to just, you know, wait for Congress and all that to act because they're not going to. Obviously, that has borne out to be true. And he's issuing his executive orders left and right. The major things we need movement on, or things that were promised, we haven't seen. And you mentioned earlier in the show, and you mentioned on Friday last week, and I think you were very correct in this, in that people in today's day and age have no patience. It's not like the 80s or 90s where, you know, instant gratification did not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the internet culture, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody else now, where we expect things to be done. You said you were going to do it, then, you know, fucking do it. You know, what are we waiting for?
Yeah.
We're 4 months and change into the administration. And we haven't gotten a lot of things like the Epstein list I mentioned earlier. We haven't got a lot of things that we're expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got time. He's got a year, 2 years. I figure 2 years. If he's not delivered on the vast majority, or at least progressing towards delivering on the majority of things, this tariff thing had better work out the way he claims.
Mm-hmm.
I am very much against the way he has handled this, but we put him in office, so I'm going to wait to see approach. I know my 401k took a beating, and it better pan out the way he claims it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it doesn't, if Trump doesn't deliver on even half of the things that he wants, whether that's judicial reform and tax reform and getting rid of all the DI crap, fixing the economy, helping to move back the national debt and government efficiency and all the trade, this nonsense. I heard earlier this week saying, well, Cambodia has a 200% tariff on us. Cambodia doesn't get shit from us. Of course there's a trade imbalance. They don't have any money.
Mm-hmm.
Vietnam's the same way. So when you get people who don't understand how economics works, I have a minorette, so at least I have a basic idea of how it works. There are certain nations that have tariffs or something similar against us. And the idea that somehow we're going to remove all the trade imbalance from all the nations of the world is a pipe dream. It isn't going to happen because it's not physically possible to happen. Yeah. So people have to moderate their expectations. But at the end of it, 2 years from now and ultimately 4 years from now, Trump had better have delivered on the major points that he has promised. Because if he doesn't, a lot of us who stood up and said, enough of this liberal shit under the Obama administration, and then God help us, the Biden one, went to the polls, who had the signs in our front yard, people who ordinarily wouldn't do anything, are going to be disenfranchised and disillusioned to the point where, as you've just said, as you yourself will do, they may not vote against you. They just won't do anything at all. And in a way, apathy is probably worse, because trying to get those people invested again is extremely difficult. Trump was able to do it because he's a bomb thrower. A lot of people voted for Trump who don't necessarily.
The thing about all that with Trump is because what you said about what we talked about last week, right? And I said the same thing. I said that it's sad to have to see Trump write all these executive orders and do certain things because we have the Congress that aren't really doing what they're supposed to. They've done nothing. And if they don't pass this bill,
they
still do nothing. Okay, one part
by 2 votes.
Passed the bill. Okay, so the thing is that until we see them doing something, like trying to make some of these DOGE cuts permanent, by action, then they're putting it all on Trump. They're making Trump have to do everything. I do too. I don't like it. I don't think it's right. That's
I don't like the scattershot way they've been doing it. It seems like they came in with absolutely no plan except a hatchet to everything. There was no rhyme or reason to how they've gone about it.
Yeah.
And I expected better, especially from Musk, who is supposedly an efficiency guru. And at least from what I've seen, has been anything but.
He hasn't done anything. See, the thing is he brought in.
He's laid off a hell of a lot of federal employees.
No, I'm not talking
a lot
about
of programs.
He recommended it. All he does is take the stuff, take it to them, and say, "This is what I recommend," and either they do it or they don't. So, because he's not really in it. He's not really in the government. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? That's a fault. I mean, that's a fiction. I mean, the reality is what he wants, he's getting, because Trump doesn't have time to look into this. And it's the same thing. He made promises. He's got other fish to fry. Elon wants to do it. Fine. Let the autistic rocket nerd go ahead and do it.
And I get it.
That's fine.
Facebook guy wanting to do it.
I saw that. I don't know how true that Zuckerberg story is. You know what? I will lose any respect I have for Trump if he lets Zuckerberg within 10 feet of the White House. That is nuts. This guy is publicly enemy number one politically. He is not aligned with you, never has been, has actively used his resources and his company on 2 prior elections against you. And now all of a sudden, because that the winds have changed, he wants to play ball. Fuck that.
Yeah, I don't trust him. The guy threw everyone under the bus to cover up for the other administration. I don't trust him. So he's
At
already
their own request.
I've already made up my mind about him. That's why I don't have Facebook. That's why I won't get Facebook. I don't want Facebook. Facebook was run like a communist nation, basically, and I don't want to do it. And now I'm getting these I don't know what it's called, Lemon 8 or something like that, invites, and I'm like, I'm not joining anything that's owned by them.
I still have a MySpace. I'm waiting for that to make a comeback.
Oh yeah,
I'm still rooting for you, Tom.
Is it even still real?
I have no. I think who bought it? Didn't Justin Timberlake buy it or something some years ago?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. As far as I know, they're.
I mean, I'm
playing
still on
AC/DC's
Telegram,
Big Gun
believe it or not.
24/7 for 10 years.
So, I still have a few friends on Telegram that I'm hanging on to that because I think it's a pretty decent little app. But it just depends on who wants to use it. I have Discord. I use that a lot more than I do. I use Discord about as much as I use X. So it's half that, that type of thing. But I like it. I like how easy it is to use. And I think it's useful for meetings and things like that. And I like the fact that I can go there, have a private meeting with 5 or 6 people and not have to worry about anybody lurking, in the background or whatever, like you do on X. I feel more secure when I send messages and things like that on Discord than I do on X. I mean, I don't trust X. There's
That's
so
what I
many
like Snapchat
bots.
because whatever you type auto deletes itself.
Well, yeah, you can have it set up for that. And that's one thing about Snapchat that's pretty good too. But what I mean is that it's, I don't know, it takes a while for people to learn how to use different apps. And once you feel comfortable with it and then you use it for certain things, you become accustomed to it. I mean, it helps you. It helps your life go smoother. It helps you do things that you wouldn't be able to do on another app, which is more cumbersome or whatever. It's supposed to make your life more convenient, right?
You know what's
like
a good social media site that I'm told that you should look into is OnlyFans. I guess there's a lot of interactions you can have with the public. It makes some money on that, from what I understand.
Yeah, but I'm not interested in OnlyFans.
Why not? I mean, why not?
I don't cook. I'm not a chef. I mean, I can make
yes, because a lot of chefs there
and stuff like that. But yeah, I had a friend that was on there, and he would make cakes once a month, and he made pretty good money. But he would make it wearing nothing but an apron. So I'm not doing that shit. So no, I'm not interested. I mean, I don't make any money doing this, but I'd rather do this than I would do OnlyFans. So I'm not gonna do it.
Why not do both?
On there already. I don't want to
do the show on OnlyFans, but only wear an apron.
No thanks. There's
You're bringing
plenty
this whole
of
thing
on there
full
already.
circle. What it comes down to, if they have any hope of winning the midterms, if they have any hope of winning in 2028, and keeping the liberals and the Democrats, with their boot on their neck, they have to deliver. People are fed up with the Congress that does nothing. They're fed up with the Senate, who does nothing. They're fed up with the presidency, who does nothing. And I know we talked about this on Friday. I don't like the way Trump is going about things because I don't want a king who is ruling by fiat.
And this is coming
at
from
the moment.
an emperor. Sorry.
Okay, fine. For those who haven't figured it out, I'm a Bonapartist. I'm a monarchist. That is what a far right is. Not fascism. Fascism is just another version of communism. That's far left. You go far enough right, you have a monarchism. That is me. But there's a very big difference between how I would run things versus what a constitutional democracy or a republic does. The president is not a king. This is not what the Federalists wanted. This is not what the original founders had in mind. But the problem is he has no choice because he has no one else to help him. So unless they want to go backwards on all the gains that they have made in 2028, they had better damn well deliver on the major points that they have had on their platform. You know, I challenged you guys last week and a few weeks ago before, if you had to put together what the Democrat platform is, a plank in their platform for the midterms or 2028, because remember, as soon as one election's over, everybody's preparing for the next one. What would you say a plank, even one of those, in the Democratic presidential platform is?
I don't know.
Exactly. You don't know. I don't know. They don't know. And it won't matter if the Republicans don't deliver, because even if they don't lose votes by people going to the left,
I really do
people
believe,
just won't vote at all.
I really believe if they could just arrest one person that was involved in, one of the big scandals that came out during the Biden administration, or even from the end of the last 2 years of Trump's administration, people, whether, I don't care if they're on the left or the right, or if they're right down the middle, if they broke the law, and they should be arrested, and to show
if it's legitimate.
Yeah,
and
it's
it
what I'm
proves
saying.
overwhelming, then yes.
If they have the evidence for something, like what happened with Hillary Clinton, remember?
Right.
She got caught with the illegal server in her bathroom. They were using bleach bit and other things, hammers on phones and stuff to get rid of evidence and things like that. She should have been arrested for that. Okay. I think so, because it was illegal. And the fact that she's Hillary Clinton, well, she got away with it. See, and people all just shrug their shoulders because they think that these people they're untouchables, whatever.
Well, they are. Nothing ever happens.
I would have that's what I'm saying. We need to see one arrest at least somebody arrested, and then the steps going towards a trial where, they're getting the lawyer and they're doing all the whatever like they did for Diddy, getting ready for the Diddy court stuff. We need to see that. I know I need to see something like that. I need that. I've been really fighting hard to try to get people to register to vote, to go to the polls, to pass out flyers, go door to door, talk about different issues that were going on in your state. What can we do about this, that, and the other, or whatever, to be active in some way. And that if you couldn't do it, to babysit for someone else so they could, or, come up, make phone trees or whatever. Be active in something to help in your communities or your school systems. All these things. I've always done that since I was in high school. I'd help my mother with lots of things because I thought it was important that our veterans are taken care of, that our elderly is taken care of, that we had our police officers, our first responders. I've always done that, and I can't help it. And it's just gonna break my heart when I have to say, well, I was wrong. I was a delusional dumbass for so long, believing in something that I never should have believed in. And maybe wonder where my life would be right now if I just said, fuck it. Way back then I said, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? And be like a lot of other people. Maybe I'd be happier. Maybe my life would be better. Or maybe I'd be, things would be different. But I didn't do those things. But maybe I might end up after this 4 years, if nothing happens and nothing changes, then that proves to me that this administration is no different than any other administration that's been before it, because they got accomplished the same amount of shit that everyone else did, because they don't ever accomplish shit. They don't do anything. They just spend our money and that's it. And if I end up feeling that way, then I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean,
but it won't just be you. It'll be a lot of people. And
well, it'll only be me in my life, in my surroundings around me. It'll just be me. See what I mean?
And that's why I said earlier, it's people unfortunately have a skewed way of looking at things, and that everything needs to happen now, because it is an instant gratification society. Look at TikTok videos. They're all the thing because they last 5-10 minute videos. That's another reason why we stopped doing the show years ago. And again, the trend was just starting. But a buddy of mine who did numbers for a living, and he was his company that he was in did marketing and research and was just starting to look into um, streaming at the time. When we started doing internet radio, we didn't even call it podcasting because it was a live broadcast that we made available for download later. And that's how I got in touch with this guy, is because he was doing research, and he told me, he said, and this was in 2014, I believe we had this discussion, Rob and I, and he said, Emp, of course, using my real name, he's like, Emp, you need to consider, maybe you should make, instead of a 4-hour show or 3-hour show, maybe you should do it in like little segments and just release them in like 10, 15-minute vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
So why the fuck would I want to have that much time to edit, and try and figure out exactly where the natural break point of a conversation is? He said, well, because, what we're seeing is that people are consuming media in smaller and smaller bits. They want to get in, get the facts, whatever, and get out. So one of the trends they saw then, and I believe it's probably a bigger trend today, is that they would watch or listen to a video or a podcast at like 1 1/4 speed or 1.5 speed to get through it quicker. And I'll be damned if he wasn't correct looking at things today. With YouTube Shorts, with TikTok, everything's got to be 10 minutes or less.
Mm-hmm.
You've got these big streamers
no
like
attention spans.
exactly my point. Now take that, to how we view things in the real world. With, damn it, I put him in office January 20th. It's the 22nd. Where the fuck is putting Hillary behind bars? Why don't we know who Epstein, hit? In the real world, things take time, especially if there's a lot of negotiations going on behind the scenes between us and other countries, or him and other politicians, whatnot. And I know it's frustrating because these are things that people have talked about for a long time, and that, we expect things to get done. Trump coming in, for one, he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's out for vengeance, and he's a lame duck president. They can't touch him because he's gone in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's only got 4 years to accomplish everything he wants, but it does take time. But he better deliver when it's all said and done, or the GOP can forget about any of the grounds that we've made in the last 8 or last 4 years, because that will reverse.
Yeah.
And you'll see a lot of apathy.
Yeah, I feel like that he has done a lot, and that he needs the other people that we voted in the other states, in the different senators' positions, and state representatives and all them, to do their part. And if they would do their part and help Trump, I think we'll see huge changes in our country. But that doesn't mean that they're going to, because you can't make people do something they don't want to.
Fingers crossed, man. And that's literally all we can do as people. One of the things that, well, call up your congressman, call up your senator, tell them what you want. The reality of it is that only goes so far, and it doesn't go as far as it used to. Because at the end of the day, they know you're going to vote for them because you don't like the other side. Things are so divided to a point. I'm not going to say, it's the worst the country's ever been divided. When we start splitting states off and forming other countries, then we'll be matching where we were at our worst. But things certainly are bad as far as how people view the country.
Well, I don't think it's worse, really, because I see so many people of all races and all nationalities coming together on the right, and then I also see the same thing on the left. So to me, it's not so much like a racial divide anymore.
Well, I didn't say racial. It is a political divide.
What I mean is that people used to say, because of the way things were set up, that it was more racially divided because of Obama and things like that. But even during Obama's administration, a lot of my friends that are Black are conservative. So their point of view about being conservative hasn't changed under a new president. I haven't seen that. The things that they feel are important about financial security and things like that are the same. They haven't changed because of it. So that's not what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is these people that are way left or whatever, just hating other people simply because they're conservative. That is just not normal, and that wasn't like that. In Trump's first administration. I feel like since this last 4 years that I've seen a way weird divide, but not really down the middle when it comes to either religion or race or anything like that. That it's totally weird. I mean, I can't explain exactly what the reason is, but there's a divide simply because of that I say that I support Trump.
In my opinion,
that's why they hate me.
The country started down this because it was when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. I'm approaching my mid 40s now. Nobody identified by what party or what their political affiliation is. No one said I'm a conservative or a liberal, I'm a Republican or Democrat. It just didn't happen. No one talked about it. In fact, outside of election time, nobody really cared. And I think, in my opinion, that started with the 2000 election, when all the challenges about hanging chads and the fact that Democrats refused to concede the election. And all of a sudden, with the birth of the 24-hour news cycle, with all three of the major players, MSNBC, Fox, and CNN, everybody chiming in on that and taking sides, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I think the media realized then what we all know now, which is there's a lot of money to be made by riling up one side or the other, because you're creating tribalism where it doesn't exist. You're giving people a side to believe in, a side to stand with. All right, come and join us. You're one of us. If you believe this, this, and this, you're on our team. And everybody who doesn't believe it is the other team.
Yeah.
And it just it's gone from there. And it's been, look how Bush was treated in his 8 years. All right. Even when the country is literally under attack. And then look how, Obama came into office. And again, your mileage may vary. Race relations didn't seem all that bad through the majority of the country. Obama comes in and starts throwing bombs, like the Harvard professor issue, or the Trayvon Martin thing down in Florida. Oh, it could have been my son. Well, then your 17-year-old son is a punk who's out there beating up people and getting into trouble. Where the hell were you as a parent?
But see, what's really sad about that whole thing with Trayvon Martin and what you just said, the comment, where were you, right? Mm-hmm. When he was in his home state as a senator, he was absent for his people then. See?
Oh, in Illinois, yeah, but that was
people voted for him. A lot of my Black conservative friends that were religious, okay, because in New Orleans, there's a lot of Black churches, and a lot of white people go to the Black churches and the Black people go to the white churches. I mean, it was very interracial. There were a lot of people from all different aspects of life hung out and did things together. I never hardly ever heard of people attacking anyone because of race, not in New Orleans. It was just a melting pot of race, and nobody even looked at anyone because of their color or treated them bad that I ever saw. It was a loving, good community where everybody got along most of the part. I mean, you're going to have, people that rob and steal and stuff like that over for drugs or whatever else everywhere. But basically, that's what I saw when I worked amongst all these other people on different things that we were working in the city and outside the city. It wasn't until they started throwing in all these transgender points of view that we had to accept this, that, and the other, or you were a Nazi, or whatever these terms they were put on it. To me, it was like going way out in left field, because I have gay and lesbian friends. You can't live in New Orleans and not have gay and lesbian friends. But they felt like they were being robbed of all the work that they had done to get to be accepted for just because they happen to be like or be attracted to the same sex as them. They finally got that where they could get married, have kids, adopt kids, have a surrogate, have children for them, go to work, come home, do the same thing, go to picnics, do the same stuff that we were doing. And all of a sudden they've been kidnapped basically. And all the work they had done, now it's like they're having to fight to be accepted again because of what these people did by taking over their status, basically, and to make everybody point their finger that because they're gay or lesbian, then they're part of the problem when they had already established that they weren't. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just seems like they just wanted to start a whole nother war, and they just took whatever they could from the people that worked hard. And now they're going to start scrambling to try to get it and put it back together again. And I just think it's terrible that, people can't just accept people for the way they are, as long as they're not hurting anyone. I don't know. Maybe I'm just so naive.
To illustrate your point, one of the co-hosts on my show, one of my best friends, is lesbian. Mm-hmm. And, she on my show repeatedly, because we actually had some very in-depth discussions on this. And, we had a very, very large, very robust and very responsive crowd when we did these shows. Mm-hmm. And she had said repeatedly, I'm lesbian and, I'm for the full marriage equality and all that. But the LGBTQ, political bloc does not represent me as a person. They just don't. Outside of the marriage equality, said other than that, I'm treated by the same pretty much by everybody. That's the only thing we ever wanted. And once we had that was it. Now we can go back to being just like everybody else. But that isn't the case. They just kept on going. And when they won that culture war, well, then they needed another one. Because once you have power, Janet, nobody wants to relinquish it. It took a long time for the Gay and Lesbian Alliance, their allies, what have you, to get some momentum to get the rights that they felt they deserved. Mm-hmm. And marriage equality is one of those. But with that comes a lot of political clout, a lot. When you get enough people, at least on one side of the aisle, to go along with you on something, well, now you have a lobby. Now you have the ear of people in power. Now you're helping to shape policy, even if it's only in your particular, little niche, which in this case was gay and lesbian rights. The right for adoption, the right for marriage equality. Once they won that cultural war, okay, well, now they still have this giant apparatus. They don't want to lose it because this is generating money. This is generating influence. This is generating power, as Frank Underwood would say. Mm-hmm. So what did they change it to? Well, if we've already won the rights for gay and lesbians, what's left? I got it. Trans people. Now all of a sudden we'll take up the trans. How many trans people were in the country that needed a lobby? Not enough that it should have mattered, but hey, now you have a new victim class you can build up and go with. Mm-hmm. And
make more.
I'm sorry?
And make more.
And it is certainly expanded.
Elementary school.
It is certainly expanded. And a lot of people that I think are highly influential or easily manipulated, or that are confused individuals. This is something like we talked about earlier about people having a group to latch onto, or people who are a little mentally easily manipulated, or being given talking points of someone to blame for their perceived lot in life. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing I think with trans. Again, this is just my personal opinion. And I think a lot of people are being influenced to believe that they are something they are not. And a lot of times when they finally realize that this is not who they are, well, they've already made decisions that unfortunately can't be reversed.
Yeah,
so
what was
thing
bad
she point
about
out
it?
Is this group, this alliance, is not speaking for me politically anymore. They've left me behind. And if I don't get on board with their belief now, and like you mentioned, it keeps getting further left and further left and further left. If I don't keep up with it, in pace, lockstep, I'm all of a sudden a bad guy. I'm all of a sudden a gender traitor or a race traitor. I'm all of a sudden conservative. She's like, I'm conservative in a few things, Not everything, but if I'm not with them, I'm against them.
Yeah. If you're not with me, you're against me. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are fed up with that. I know
one
I am.
thing that what was sad about the whole situation was that instead of getting more adults, to sign up and want to, chop off body parts and whatever else, they couldn't get the numbers they wanted. So what did they do? They just got the school counselors to help them get kids. And when Obama was running for president, I had people from Illinois that were going on, oh, I love Obama. He's going to be awesome, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I thought you were a Christian. And they said, I am. And I said, then how did you think that he's such a great person when he voted in your state to let 13 or 14-year-old girls get an abortion without their parents finding out about it? And she went, he never did that. And I said, look it up.
There's not a whole lot of politicians that kind of go lock and step with any kind of major religion, if we're really being honest.
No, I know. But what I was saying is she's bragging about him, just like the whole thing with Bill Clinton when he was like, I'm the man with the plan. And I was asked people, well, what's his plan? Well, they didn't know. But see, that's what I'm talking about, is people vote for somebody simply because other people said, it's cool or it's the thing to do, instead of voting because it's something that goes along with the way you already live your life.
Look how many people genuinely believed that Trump under the first administration or this one was going to round up gay people and put them into concentration camps, or transgender people, or was going to take away every single right that any woman has. Genuinely believe this, tears streaming down their face, screaming at the sky as if God gave a shit about them. These people were convinced, and it's not performative. I'm sure some of them were performing. I'm sure some of them were doing it for anybody looking, oh, what was me? These people believe this nonsense. Even though it's never come to fruition, nothing. There were people telling me that there is going to be martial law declared back on April 18th or 19th or 20th or something like that, that Trump is considering passing martial law for one reason or another. It's just like the QAnon assholes back in the day, except worse, in my opinion. And when it's just the people, well, the Earth's going to end on this day. I've done the math. Give away all your stuff. And then when it doesn't happen, oh, well, that's because you got scared off by the judiciary or people who said it was a bad idea. If Trump wanted to declare martial law tomorrow, he would, and there's no one that would stop him. But it's still the same shit that they peddle. And it gets onto the internet, and everybody believes, well, of course he's going to do it. Of course. Why? And I asked my one friend who was telling me this, why would he want martial law? Oh, well, that's the way he can enact, whatever he wants, and people won't be able to protest against him. And I said, well, to be fair, can you name me one protest that it's ever amounted to anything? Because there's been a million people on the Washington Mall, how many different times, screaming about how much they hate his guts, and it hasn't changed. And apparently he doesn't seem to care. He doesn't need martial law. He's writing just plenty executive orders as it is. He doesn't need soldiers on the ground. And exactly how many soldiers do you think he would need to occupy every major city in the country to enforce that?
More than I think we have.
Damn right.
Yeah.
So it boggles the mind sometimes, the things get in people's head, and they will argue till they're blue in the face to convince you that these things are real. The concentration camps, the gay, lesbian, trans, it can happen any minute. You'll know. It's in the plan.
But see, all that happened during COVID too. I was told that they were going to round you up if you didn't get your shot. And I said, oh, well, then I guess they're going to have to arrest me.
There were people that were pushing for that. Remember, if you're so irresponsible to your grandparents that you won't get the shot, then you need to be forced. You shouldn't be allowed to go to school. You shouldn't allowed to have a job. You shouldn't be allowed to go to a grocery store.
Yeah.
Now that's something they actively tried pushing. Look how many people, I'm glad I left federal service when I did, because I had buddies that stayed there and were forced to go get the vaccine to maintain their federal jobs. So that was forcing them, and that was under Trump. He allowed that to happen, and he knew better and should never have allowed that kind of thing.
Yeah, and also I was told that the post office, everyone that worked for the post office, were exempt, and so were all the senators and stuff. If they didn't want to get it, they didn't have to.
Yeah, the military wasn't. They were told they had to get it.
See? That's what because they knew, they figured, or they thought that the sheeple would just blindly get in line and do whatever they were told. Because you got to remember, some people think that when you're a senator or a congressman or a state representative or a mayor or a governor, you're above everyone else. So they look down their nose at you and think that you're a peon and you need us to tell you how to live your life because you're not smart enough to do it. You're just, only thing you're good at is going to your menial job and making money so that we have taxes. That, basically, and that's the way they treat people. And it's sad. I mean, the industry that I was working in, pretty much a lot, that's how those people looked at people. That looked at the rest of us like, well, yeah, the rest of us, that we were beneath them. We were not capable of understanding things because we were too low on the totem pole to really, understand or whatever. So they needed us, the others, the elites or whatever, the people that actually knew how the world should work and how it's supposed to work, to make sure that you did your job to fulfill what your need was in the environment, that type of thing. It's scary because that's how they a lot of these people really believe that shit. That's what they think. So just like you said earlier,
It just reminded me of something. I just finished a book by an author named John Ringo, best-selling author, National Times best-selling author. Very funny guy, phenomenal author, 82nd Airborne vet. He wrote a book called Beyond the Ranges. It just came out last year. I just finished it. And in this book, the Earth is destroyed. No one knows how. They just destroyed it. And a bunch of robots are able to save most of the population of the Earth, and because it's like, look, Earth blew up. We're sorry. We're not going to go into it, but we made you a new Earth. But we've divided everybody up based on your political views. So on this space station, there's 500 million people here worldwide who have what you consider, conservative. And of course, people are asking, well, what happened to all the liberals? I'm like, well, we can't say. So it's assumed they have their own space station somewhere else in the galaxy. And it's about how society, who's basically starting from scratch, and everybody on there has, for the most part, conservative views, and then how the population approaches building a new world from scratch. And how, entrepreneurs and people are like, okay, well, we're on a space station, so people are going to need fresh food, and we're going to need, wood, and we're going to need stone, and we're going to need to build houses and things like that. So it's really a conservative's wet dream about what science fiction could be. What would happen if it was just us and we shed all the liberal dead weight? And on the flip side of that too, if you're a liberal, you can think in the book, oh, well, somewhere out there is a communist commune of how many hundreds of millions of people building.
So there isn't the opposite point of view in the story, in the book.
They
like
talk
this
about
is
it
what
like
happens on the liberal one, and this is what happens on the conservative one. They don't have that.
Well, no, they mention again. The belief is, since we have our own system and the robots not knowing anything about us, just based on our posts on social media and on Facebook and the correspondence they find or whatever. Because again, there's a couple leaps of logic here. As I think he wrote it just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
That there is a liberal system out there. But he just doesn't get into it. And some of the characters have, family or girlfriends or whatever that were liberals that aren't on this station anymore, and how they deal with that and move on. And it was a hell of a read. I finished it in 2 days. It's like 400 pages. It's not, it's not heavy lifting. It was really good. It was, as long as you go into understanding, this is John Ringo. All right. He's great at military science fiction. He's great at, there's some comedy in there. A lot of his books are, but he's a very right-wing guy. He's done op-eds for Fox News and he's and for New York Times and things like that. So it's like Tom Kratman or Leah Correa, these other authors that are in the same vein that also are very right wing and that makes it into their books, but it makes it into books in a funny way.
Yeah,
and that's always the difference when I read, like, say, Scalzi, who's a very liberal guy. If you read any of his books, there's not a whole lot of comedy in there. Very dry, very very serious. Where the right wing stuff, again, it's a lot of it is there's some philosophy in there. There's serious moments. There's still levity in it. But if you are of a right-leaning person or in the middle of the road and you do want to read some science fiction, Beyond the Ranges by John Ringo is a good one. Him and Tom Kratman, I've really enjoy. Larry Correa really enjoy. I can go on and on for authors that I really like that put out good material. But it's just I just finished out one last week, and it's kind of going what we were saying about dividing. When we talk about dividing the people by politics, not by race. Well, this situation that happens. The section part of the station is Americans. And
have you not seen that?
I'm sorry.
Have you not seen people divided by politics and not by race, basically? Have you not seen
I've always been of the opinion that if a second American Civil War broke out, it's going to be divided that way. It's not going to be, one race on one side. I think there are certain races that are going to be predominantly on one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why a second American Civil War would be far uglier than a first one, because it's not the I'm trying to think of what the word would be to. The breakdown of populations would be a lot different than it was the first time. If you were in the South, everybody knew you were in the South. Everyone probably was in lockstep about how they view their way of life and wanted to continue it. In the North, for the most part, people are abolitionist. Today, right versus left, the demographics of that are far different. And they're very well blended. And it's going to be hard, especially in most red states, inside your major cities, very, very blue. You go outside the city limits, well, now you're in red territory. Mm-hmm. And that's how things would be. It would be broken down by political beliefs, and that's far more difficult to do, especially when not everybody is majority of one race.
Well, also, you remember, too, though, since the beginning, basically, through, any kind of writings that people have found through the years, as we've evolved as a human race, religion has been a focal point in separating people. So.
And religion is a touchstone. It's a topic now as well. Less so because you only have one religion out there that is especially militant, whereas the other ones really aren't. Mm-hmm. You're Christians, you're Jews, you're Hindus, you're Shintos, you're Buddhists. They're not really militant. There's not any, groups out there. People like to try to bring up the IRA as if somehow that mattered. They were never Christian or Catholic. They were communist and atheist, and they've been long gone in any measurable way. Mm-hmm. On the other side, Islam is a very militant one. And there's a discussion that I have had with a number of friends several times over the years. And one of my friends happens to be a practicing Muslim. Mm-hmm. He's very Americanized. He's third generation now. But even he was saying, and this is just what? Well, this is right before Easter we were talking about it. Mm-hmm. Or I think it was Ramadan had just ended. Because we were ragging, we would deliberately eat dinner or lunch in front of him because he couldn't eat. So we would bring out again, we're all very good friends. So bacon sandwiches and whatever. Oh man, that's really good. This is great. Jamal, would you like some? No, want any? You sure? Kind of thing. Yeah. And then he would do the same thing on Lent. He'd bring a burger, hey, Ep, you want a burger? You want some? Oh, that's right. You can't have meat. Oh, that sucks. Thank you, bitch.
Yeah.
Even he was saying, and this might be a topic for maybe your Friday show if you have more points of view. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of more difficult because majority of people we have on your show here all have a very similar point of view, but it's this. Islam in the Middle East, especially Arab and Persian culture, does not work with Western beliefs and Western culture. Our morals, our accepted values are fundamentally different, and they are not compatible. And you want proof of this, it's not hard to go. It's not hard to find. Look at Germany, look at France, look at Ireland, look at the UK, look at Sweden, look at Norway. Anywhere where you have these large groups, in the millions now, of Middle East immigrants that have come in here, or North African, and they don't get along with anyone. They want you not to be able to. In the UK, they're telling people don't walk dogs in certain neighborhoods because dogs are seen as unclean to Muslims. In places in France and places in Norway, you're not allowed to certain restaurants that are operating certain hours during Ramadan. This is something that we talked about with my friend, and even he agreed that these are real things that some people, his parents, agree with. That you shouldn't have dogs, you shouldn't have this, shouldn't have that, and you look at this and you have one or two ways of dealing with it. For the longest time, people ignored it. And when you ignore it, eventually becomes too big of a problem to get away from. That's why you have the crime problems you have in these Western European countries. That's why you have groups where are not integrating. You've got Prime Minister Starmer now in England or in the UK, who's all of a sudden done a quick 180. It is now pushing back against allowing immigrants into the country because of the problems they're causing, the rape gangs, the fact that they don't speak English, the fact that they want to build mosques everywhere, what have you. And they're not allowing people who aren't Muslim anywhere near the mosque or in the same neighborhood. It is not compatible.
Yeah.
You have two very different ways of looking at things. And it used to be you ignore it because you're trying to be polite, live and let live, everybody get along. That isn't how they look at things. That isn't how the Quran is written. I've read it several times. I encourage anybody to read it yourself. Don't take my word for it. And I understand the counter argument is, well, the Old Testament is very barbaric, and if we lived that way, we would still be stoning people. But we don't live like that, do we? We aren't stoning people. We aren't sacrificing sheep to God. We're not expecting, him to come and strike down San Francisco and turn into a pillar of salt or what have you.
Yeah.
All right. We understand their parabolas that aren't necessarily, if they are historical things, they don't take place today. All right. There's a vast majority of people in Islam who read these things and who do believe that this is the way you should do things. That you shouldn't deal with the infidels. That a contract is a contract is a contract, as long as it's between Muslims.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine to defraud people who aren't that way. So you have two very, different ways of dealing with this. So either A, you ignore it, or B, you start pushing back on it. And the minute you do that, you know exactly what's going to happen. Violence in the streets. So you bring up, would people be divided by religion? If it ever gets divided by religion, and India's got the same problem with Pakistan, in Kashmir, Hindus and Muslims. If it does come down to religions, it's going to be everybody on one side and Islam on the other. Because that's how they view things. That's how they want it. And I hope it never gets to that point.
Yeah, me too.
And I hope religion never becomes that touchstone, because then you got Pakistan and India. Then you've got Israel and Palestine. Then you've got, everything becomes a flashpoint pretty much east of the Balkans.
Yeah, we haven't really had that in our country.
Knock on wood, thank God.
Yeah, thank
But
goodness.
you're starting to see a lot of it with these Palestinian protests, attacking people, like, gunning down 2 Jews who walked out of a building.
That's what I'm saying. We haven't really had to deal with that, because like in other countries, people get on a bus to go to town and the bus gets blown up. That's an everyday thing for a lot of people in Israel and in Gaza and other places like that. So we're lucky that we've lived in our country and been able to have so many 100 years without that type of horrible tragedies happening on every week or every month in our country because of the way that our founding fathers had put together our country, with freedom of religion, basically, but not letting any one religion take a hold in the government. You see what I mean?
Mhm.
And I hope that we can keep it that way because I'm seeing so many changes in other countries, and it's I definitely don't want to see that happen in our country.
Nerdy Ogre says Dearborn, Michigan. That's true. Places in Minnesota are, Somali are majority Muslim. As long as they follow the law to keep their nose clean, I don't give a shit. But that's what it comes down to, Janet. Don't tell me how you did things in your country or where you're from. Because I don't give a shit. You came here because the hellhole you left didn't work. Don't tell me how you did things there. You left there because it sucked. You came here because it's better. You come here, you do things how we do things. I don't mean you have to believe in my version of God or one at all. But by God, you're going to follow our rules or we're going to kick you out.
Yeah.
And that's how it should have been all along. And that's how it needs to be going forward.
So, yeah, if we can keep it that way, clean it all up and put some more balance in again when it comes to, Americans having be the first one with rights. I don't know how that could ever get thrown away. Didn't make any sense to me at all.
It's not that we should be the first one to have rights. We're the only ones in this country that do. The Constitution is very clear on that.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Is that we should be able to have the rights, American citizens, before anyone else. And then the fact that they're putting them up in 5-star hotels and our veterans are sleeping in the street, I just had a hard time with that. That was, some of those things has really got me fired up because I just don't believe in that. I think it's baloney.
Most countries outside of Western Europe and the United States do usually put a premium on taking care of their own people. Japan and South Korea and what have you. Only here do we, for whatever reason, try to elevate people that don't belong here, that are here illegally, higher than the rest, or at least give them more opportunities and more handouts, what have you, that they're not entitled to.
Yeah.
If you really want to help people, there are plenty of Americans, as you just mentioned, veterans, and I talked to one recently who's going through some stuff that could use some help. There are plenty of Americans. If we were in a time of plenty, that's fine. If you want to go and give handouts to the less fortunate. Right now, there are plenty of Americans struggling that should be handled and taken care of first. So whenever I hear this America first type of nonsense, then put your money where your mouth is, politicians. That's what I want to see. And anytime one of these assholes on Twitter says, is this what you voted for? That's what I want to vote for. That's what I want to see. Put our people first. Now, if that makes me a nationalist, then so be it. Well, not all cultures are equal. No, they're not. When you can stone a woman for being raped, that's not a compatible culture. When you can throw somebody who's gay off a roof because it's incompatible with your culture and your religion, our cultures are not compatible. When you can force someone to have a hysterectomy or kill them for dishonoring your family, our cultures are not compatible. Ours have value. Yours does not, in my opinion. If you don't allow women to drive cars in your country or vote, then your culture is not as valuable as mine. And that is these are the things. This is something the left has been saying for years, where all cultures are equal. Everybody's allowed to do their own thing. You're allowed to do your own thing in your nation's borders. When you come here, our value system is number one. You should be treated that way. The end. And if you don't agree with it, if you don't like it, then don't move here. See, that's kind of the implicit agreement. If you are moving to the United States or coming here, it's with the understanding that you at least agree that you're going to be like everybody else in following the general societal rules and our laws. I'm not going to not walk my dog around the neighborhood because it's somehow unclean to you. I don't care. And if you come up to me in a restaurant and scream at me because I'm having dinner during your religious holiday, I'm going to throw food at you. If I don't.
Yeah. Well, see, I feel the same way when somebody leaves a state that's very liberal, like let's say New York or, Oregon, Washington State, California, and they move to Florida or Texas or
Same
Oklahoma.
thing.
And they bring the way they vote to that state in an over 20-year span.
Absolutely.
Now Oklahoma is Oregon, and that's a fact that's been happening. And that's why over centuries of time, you see the boundaries moving around, about where one state, what used to be, conservative, but now it is not. And then hopefully it'll go back to being conservative and another state will be liberal, because people moving around and taking their votes with them, basically.
A lot of people in Texas say that. Don't bring your crappy lefty politics with you from California. There's a reason your state has rolling blackouts, a deficit, feces in the street with needles, and businesses leaving.
Yeah.
There's a reason why your state has failed, because the stuff that you did back then doesn't work. So don't come here and try it.
Oh, and $7 gas.
So exactly, because there's 100 different formulas for gasoline. You want to be part of the winning side, then get on the winning team. Don't tell me, well, that's how we did things in California. Yeah, we know. That's why you're here. And to this ogre saying,
once I'm not in California.
The ogre saying, once the Jews, the Christians, and the Islamic religions get done beating each other, the pagan P-E-G-A, it's P-A-G-A-N, buddy. There is no pagan religion. And I don't know where they're going to rise from, but okay. But it's not Christians and Jews beating on each other. It's just Islam beating on everybody. And at some point, you're going to start seeing pushback. You only get along, and then you got Crusades, and then Constantinople's coming back, and all right.
I do see it. I see some pushback. It's just that I was hoping it would be more by now, but it's not.
And what would happen if Pope Leo came out tomorrow and said, "All right, fuck this, grab your swords, we're going on crusade, taking back Istanbul."
I don't
the
know.
world would be blown. The memes would be worth it, but man.
But would you join a crusade if the Pope did say?
I joined a crusade. I don't know what anybody would want me on the crusade for, but it is my Christian and Catholic duty to take the cross to recapture Constantinople.
Yeah.
We're going to go back and get the Holy Land. Well, most of the Holy Land's already in friendly hands. I'm not going to launch a crusade against the Israelis. They haven't done anything, and they've got a nuke anyways.
Well, yeah, a golden dome, which hopefully we'll have one day. It seems
See
like.
that, man, I hope that I wanted to thought about talking about that, but figure I'd leave off. Janet, I hope this isn't another Star Wars thing like Reagan had in the 80s. Now, I understand Star Wars was mostly fake because he's trying to get the Soviets to outspend, and they did. But man, I hope this Golden Dome shit isn't the same thing where it's not really real. We're just telling people it is so they don't screw with us. I don't know.
I don't think so. I can't wait they're going to supposed to start giving us more and more information about it as it unfolds or whatever.
I don't know that we should be disseminating information to anybody, because once everybody knows.
Talking about basically the knowledge of what it means and how it's going to defend us, that type of thing.
What concerns me is the graphic they showed had a nuke hitting Northeast Ohio. It's like, what the fuck, man? We didn't do anything. Why are we on the graphic as being blown up?
I didn't notice that.
Oh, let me see if I can find it. It's hilarious. Like, damn, that sucks. Why are we getting hit? Like, you know what? We hate Akron and Cleveland. They're going first.
I did see the thing behind them, when they were at the desk, Hegseth and Trump was sitting at the desk, and they had that real pretty, I don't know, globe looking thing there. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, here, I'm going to send it to you right now. Let's see. Share, send direct message to... You know what? I don't think it's going to work because, well, you can see private messages. I can't. I just sent it to you.
Okay.
Look at the global thing. It's like there's a nuke hitting, it looks like southern part of Minnesota, It looks like it hit Charleston, and then it fucking hits Cleveland. It's like, why? Haven't we suffered enough living in Cleveland? Now you got to nuke us? It just more proof that the world knows exactly how powerful the state of Ohio really is.
Okay, I'm sending you a message. I don't know if it'll go through or not. Did it go through?
Let me see.
X.
It says I've got 2 messages, but I can't access them. It says something went wrong. Try reloading. Fuck you, X. I've been trying to reload for hours.
It says I have 2 messages. It says it's the last one I got from you. It says yes or no.
Oh, I
guess
think I was asking you
you
to
were
send me
asking
nudes.
about-
You
Yeah,
didn't answer.
no.
Like, yes or no? No, let me see.
It was about about being on the show.
Oh, okay.
So
The
that
answer is
was
yes. I'll be on the
yesterday.
show.
So I haven't received anything since then. So I sent stuff, but you haven't received or
Let me see.
you haven't received
How
it.
do I send it? Can I send a picture to this? I mean, you know what? Here, I'll send it to you. I'll text it to
Post
you. You
it
got to
on
see this.
here.
It's hilarious. How do I put a picture in here? How do I drag it in here?
I don't know.
All behind the scenes stuff,
See
folks.
right
Bear
down
with
there
us.
it says present. Don't you have
There, let's
present?
see.
down there?
Can I copy that
Click
in
on
there?
that, and then
Nope.
it'll be up. We should be able to put something in there.
I don't see anything for allowing a picture. That stinks. Here. Discord. Remember we were talking about how great Discord is?
Oh, that's right. Put it on that. And I'll
Discord.
look
There you
at
go.
it.
Right, look at
Then
that.
I can share it.
Look at that. Fucking Cleveland. Blasted off the map. Never did anything to anybody. Can't win a championship, and now we're just nuked. Chinese
Oh,
took us
all
out.
right. Yeah, I have to zoom in.
That's unfair.
I made it bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me
they
see
always
if
tell
I
me.
can. Let's see if I can share that or not. Let's see.
That's what she said.
No, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to share a photo from Discord. I don't see Discord popping up on here, so I don't know how to share it. Oh, well,
Yeah,
it is
if you
pretty,
see it,
though.
folks, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it is pretty though. It's
It's not pretty.
gold.
It's scary.
gold and shiny. Yeah, well, yeah, it is stupid. I don't know why they did that, but it's
It's
not
funny.
just
It is.
there.
It's
There's
funny.
another state over there with the lasers. It's like laser beams.
Well, I think there's supposed to be missiles coming in. Like, you ever seen the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick
Oh yeah.
and the Whopper with they show like the streaking missiles coming? Okay, same thing.
Mhm.
Great movie, by the way.
It is. It's supposed to be on our list, but I don't know if we're ever going to get to see it or not.
Well, you've
But
already seen War
it's
Games.
almost. Yeah, we're doing the 13th Warrior next Sunday, so that's gonna be-
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. That's one
Yeah.
I picked.
Yeah.
It's almost 11 p.m. So
You need to
I
watch
know
Fight
it's
Club.
midnight for you. So
I'm on vacation until Tuesday as of
I know, but
today.
you said you're going to try to sleep in too, right?
Well, that means sleeping in. I'm a night owl. I'm always up.
Well, I know,
Look,
but
Janet, I understand. You're trying to get rid of me. You're done talking to me.
well, the thing
All you have
is
to do is say so. You're
I'm
like,
gonna
you
get
know
up
what?
by 4.
I bet if Ruben was here, he'd be able to go to like 3 a.m. That'd be fine. But nope. Amp's got to go.
Ruben usually he's been worn out. He's been taking care of people, so he's been worn
Well,
out.
I think he's working out quite a bit too.
Yeah, he is. But yeah, I've been really proud of Ruben. But I'll see him again tomorrow. Hopefully everything's gotten better for him this last week. But I just want to say thank you for joining me tonight and hanging out.
Wait. You got to pimp your show for tomorrow. What's on top of it tomorrow? Who are your guest hosts?
I don't know for sure.
You are awful at advertising your own show. I have no idea who's going to show up. I have no idea what we're going to talk about.
Well,
You can be here.
As far as I know, Ruben and Bruce will be here for sure.
Okay.
They both said they would be there. And I will have to go through the shit show chat because tomorrow morning, I guarantee a shit ton of stuff's going to happen. And we'll probably end up talking about some of that stuff because that's what happens every Friday. Because I'll have a whole bunch of things that I think I want to talk about in the shit show chat. And then I'll look and I'll say, oh, I have to change it because this, that, and the other, popped up. So we'll see. It'd definitely be politics mostly.
That's how you promote your show. We got to work on your promotion abilities.
Well,
How about this? Well, what time do you show tomorrow?
Plus, I'm really tired. I told you I've been working in my yard and stuff. It's a mess.
Oh, boo-hoo. I've been putting 10-hour days in Monday through Thursday, Monday
Did
through
you
Friday
see
for
that
weeks.
video of what happened behind my coop?
Yes.
Okay, that's a lot of mess. And then I got like 4
Well,
other
that's your fault
trees.
living in a storm area.
Yeah.
Go live in Tornado Alley or
But someone's
Dixie
got to
Alley.
clean it up
Okay, I'll do it for you. What time do you show tomorrow?
at 9,
9 Central?
10 Central.
Okay, all right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget tomorrow, Friday Night Shit Show with Janet, with Bruce, with Ruben. Tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. Be here. No idea what they're going to talk about. It's a mystery. In fact, bring your own topics. Anything you want to talk about. It's a free-for-all Friday. I used to say, be here tomorrow, Janet from another planet for tomorrow's Friday Night Shit Show. Bring your own topics. Bring your own beer. Anything goes. That's why you need to come, because you never know exactly what you're going to get or what they're going to talk about. It's a mystery to everybody. It'll be fun. It'll be free. We will see you tomorrow, 10 p.m. Central. 9
And I'm putting my email in the chat. So
and your email is FridayNightShitShow@gmail.com, spelled exactly how you think it is.
Yeah. And if you have an idea of something you think we should talk about tomorrow, send me an email and I'll see if I can bring it up. As long as it's not, porn or anything like that, because I won't.
Well, then why would I bother? I only send you porn.
I won't have any porn on the show. Now,
It's animal porn, but it's porn. I'm not going to send you emails. I'm not on your show tomorrow. I'm not going to do your work for you.
Well, I don't know. I have a guest already, so.
You just said you'll know who's on your show.
No, I said I have a guest, one guest, if he shows up. See, that's part of my problem is because I'll say I'll have someone coming and we're going to talk about this subject, and then I wait, and then the clock ticks down to it's 1 minute and they still don't show up. And then an hour or so after the show is over, they send me an email and say, I'm really sorry, I forgot about the thing, or I fell asleep or whatever.
You need to stop inviting people who fall asleep in the middle of the day.
Maybe if I ever learn how to do this better, maybe I'll have guests that actually want to come. So I don't know. But yeah, I'm really tired today. I've had so much stuff going on around my house with the storms, and I think we're supposed to get more this weekend too. So that's what happens when you live in Tornado Alley.
I'm sick of rain. We've had it for 6 days in a row. I'm not going to be able to mow my backyard for a month.
Right? Recently, you've had more storms than normal, right?
We've had more rain than normal, and it's colder than normal by about 20 degrees.
It's interesting, isn't it? Don't you think?
Global cooling. They were right from the 1970s. We should have listened.
Maybe. Because a lot of people are saying that they think it's the shift in the magnetic poles that's going to change, make it cooler.
I don't know about that. Generally, it's sun-driven. I don't know about the magnetic poles have much to do with anything, but maybe.
I mean, I don't know.
Tune in tomorrow night while we talk about magnetic poles. And is it affecting the weather? Are you seeing more storms than normal? Is this part of a government conspiracy?
Yeah, because they're not supposed to be doing that weather stuff anymore. But if it wasn't real, why would Florida and a couple other states pass, laws saying that you can't manipulate the weather, or you do chemtrails and all that stuff?
I think it's dropping that silver cyanide nitrate stuff in the atmosphere. Didn't the UAE do that last year, and they caused a giant flood in Dubai because they seeded the clouds way too much?
That's what I was told happened, but then other people were telling me I was a conspiracy theorist because I was talking about it. So I just quit talking about it because I thought maybe I was wrong.
Oh, I thought that was a confirmed thing because they had these giant floods in Dubai where they
it was terrible.
Maybe I'm wrong. Could be.
I saw camels swimming. If
you think Janet is peddling conspiracy theories, email FridayNightShitShow@gmail.com and tell us what a nutcrack that she is.
Yeah, because I am. I'm a nut. But
yeah.
I'm trying to be nut. I'm just me, but that's all right. But thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us tonight and letting us go on and on about our point of view. But I don't know. I enjoy it. I enjoy just talking about things that are going on and what we could do about it, or could we change it, and look at things that way, because a lot of people don't, they don't care. And I don't want to end up being one of those people. I really don't.
Janet, the service that you do to most people isn't necessarily coming up with a solution to the problem. At this point in our society, I think the best thing to do is to acknowledge that there is an issue, because so many people ignore it or they're afraid to voice it. And that's really what people have been beaten down is keep your mouth shut. You know what? No one wants to hear from you. Nobody wants to be offended. So, and I think that's what you do best. That's what the value that your show brings is you at least have the guts to at least say what's on a lot of people's minds that they're afraid to.
And that's if I can make someone feel better that, hey, look at me, she's talking about exactly what I'm thinking about or similar. So I'm not nuts, I'm not as crazy.
I didn't say all chicks are crazy to some degree.
Well, you know what I mean. Well, I think you know what I mean. It's nice to feel like you're not alone.
On the hot crazy matrix, I'm guessing you're in the far upper right.
I guess, I don't know, maybe, but thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. I wish that I had way more time, but see, now that I have a game on Monday night, because I'm doing Heroic with Bear, it's his game that he's writing, and he wrote me out my own superhero. So I would get to play a superhero on Monday night. And then on Wednesday night, I'm playing a gnome, a 3-foot gnome in a new world. We're in a new world now. We got transported, like through a time warp or something. And it's very evil. It's got very evil stuff going on there. And then I do this on Thursday, if I can, depending on my guests. And then Friday Night Shit Show, which I love. And then Saturday, I'll play another game, but it'll be Bruce's game, and his will run way different than the way Bear does it. So I'm just trying to juggle and learn about the dice and the different rules for the different games and things like that. It's a lot. It's just a lot to try to learn all this. I got tons and tons of notebooks.
You're a very popular individual.
And then on Sunday, we're going to be doing a movie review.
More.
It's called, we're going to be watching the movie The 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas. And hopefully it'll be fun to do that and hang out on Sunday. So that's it. That's what I've got planned. You'll be on vacation. You'll be sleeping a lot, I'm sure.
Jesus, I will. Plan on going to the comedy show. We have in town. We have a very nice comedy theater. My mind's going blank. You know what I'm talking about. I wanted to take a ride up to Detroit for the weekend and see the Indians play the Tigers. They're in town. Weather depending, I still might do that, or go see the Pirates play, or go see the Clippers play. But the problem is there's rain everywhere around us, and most of the activities that I want to do are outdoorsy.
Mm-hmm.
So, much like your show tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll let you know. What's that?
Take your poncho.
I'm going to have to, and a friggin' umbrella.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an umbrella, whatever. But if it's just light rain, it might not be so bad. I mean, if the players are out there playing for you, you can at least get wet watching them.
Tell you what, you pay me $10 million, and I'll go sit in the stands. And I don't care what the rain is or the snow.
Heck, everyone would sit in the stands for $10 million.
There you go. So don't tell me the players are out there, then you can do it. Fuck that. They're getting paid to be there. I got to pay to see them.
Oh, well, yeah, you're right.
I sat in a snow out at a baseball game on a home opener. 6 inches of snow fell during the game.
Nerdy Org just said.
Real fat. Okay, you know what? Said with the this guy's from Michigan, isn't he? What the hell does he know? Front runners and cheaters. That's all they know.
Well, everybody has the right to be themselves if they want to. But thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I hope everybody has a really great Friday and a nice weekend coming up. So you guys have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much.
Have a good night, everybody.
See you.
First off, let me convey to my family, friends, and supporters that now is not the time to gloat. We must remember that most of our left-leaning friends are good people who want the same things in life as we do, but simply think differently on how to get there. It is now time to be the bigger man, to extend an olive branch and unite all reasonable people of this great nation. God has blessed America, and together with President Trump, we will make America great again.